The coarse weave of a Green Cloud Sect robe is not your own, and a dry swallow tastes of another man's guilt. A startled turn reveals the door into this narrative now opening. Like and subscribe to stand with the rebellion. Chapter 301. Chapter 301. Yining, she wore the Green Cloud Sect attire. Among the True Thunder Sect disciples, she stood out like a sore thumb. The elegant light green long dress perfectly outlined her captivating curves. Her delicate face, without any makeup, was stunning enough to amaze everyone. Amidst the True Thunder Sect disciples, she stood out like a crane among chickens. Several Desire Sect disciples couldn't help but notice her. Jai Ryu's eyes brightened, and she genuinely praised, "What a beautiful junior sister. Even in our Desire Sect, she would be one of the top beauties." The Desire Sect was known for its handsome men and beautiful women, but the beauty of the woman before them still carried an unsurpassed allure. Jai Ryu looked again and again, liking her more with each glance. Suddenly her eyes flashed, and she turned to Jiang Fan, saying, "Senior brother, do you like this junior sister? If you do, how about I help you make a connection?" All along the way, Jiang Fan hadn't spoken to them. Jai Ryu hadn't gotten a chance to make his acquaintance. Now seemed like a good opportunity. Jiang Fan felt both amused and helpless, his tone slightly complex as he said, "No need, there's no fate between us." Jai Ryu, being perceptive, immediately sensed something amiss and probed, "Senior brother, do you know her?" Jiang Fan's gaze also turned complex. "We more than just know each other." If it weren't for her saying, "I would rather die than marry Jiang Fan," in the past, their lives might have taken completely different paths. So they did know each other. Just as Jai Ryu wanted to investigate further, Elder Ling spoke up. "So it is a Dao friend from True Thunder Sect." She let out a small breath of relief. In the True Thunder Sect group, the one sitting at the front on a horse was a bald, middle-aged man with a black lightning mark on his forehead. He had pale skin and no hair on his body, not even eyebrows. He looked strange, but the aura he exuded was imposing. "So it is Elder Ling," he said with a smile. "I thought there was a great treasure appearing here." His face carried a smile, but his peripheral vision was fixed on the water droplets on the ground, full of suspicion. From their distance, they could clearly see the miraculous scene of the clouds falling. Unexpectedly, they found the Desire Sect group upon rushing over. Elder Ling chuckled, "If there were a great treasure, would I still be here waiting for you to arrive? I would have long taken the treasure and fled." Well, the bald, middle-aged man thought for a moment and then asked, "So what happened here just now? Does Elder Ling have any clues?" Elder Ling smiled wryly and shook her head. "I also wish to know. The phenomenon of clouds falling, I've never heard of it. Elder Jin, if you have any clues, please be honest and share them." Jiang Fan listened to the two of them deflecting. He found it secretly amusing. Neither of them had any clues, and even if they did, they would never share with each other. Elder Jin realized he had asked a superfluous question. Unwilling to give up, he kept searching among the water droplets on his horse. Only when the droplets had completely evaporated did he sigh and return, saying, "It seems it was just a natural phenomenon." He looked at Elder Ling and then at the 6 disciples in the carriage. Elder Jin's eyes flashed, and he smiled. "Elder Ling, are you taking your disciples to participate in the Sword Forest Dao Enlightenment at Myriad Sword Sect?" "I am too. How about we go together?" Elder Ling cupped her hands and said, "I appreciate Elder Jin's kindness, but my disciples are all delicate, they can't travel hastily. You go ahead so as not to delay you." The Desire Sect disciples exchanged glances, all looking puzzled. They didn't understand why Elder Ling refused. The western route was unsafe nowadays. Combining the two sects would undoubtedly be safer. Jai Ryu, however, knew the situation and whispered, "Don't misunderstand Elder Ling. She is protecting us. That bald man is not a good person." Jiang Fan couldn't help but glance at Yining. His eyes showed a trace of worry. Jai Ryu lowered her voice even further and said, "He is Jin Yunli, the great elder of the True Thunder Sect. There were 2 instances where he undertook missions with other sect experts, and the rest of the team was wiped out, but he returned alive. Since there were no survivors, the matter was left unresolved." Upon hearing this, everyone felt a chill. Now they understood why Elder Ling had refused without hesitation. This Jin Yunli had a notorious record. One instance of a total wipeout with him being the sole survivor could be chalked up to luck. But twice, could it still be luck? Jiang Fan became more worried. With someone so devious, was Yining really safe in his group? He had promised Li Qingfeng. If he encountered Yining outside the sect, he must take good care of her. Seemingly sensing Jiang Fan's gaze, Yining looked over. But once she saw him, her eyes couldn't leave Jiang Fan's masked face. She rubbed her eyes, doubting if she was dreaming, mumbling in a daze. No one shadow guard? No one knew how much she missed no one shadow guard. The one who taught her movement techniques at the Dragon Rising Path. The one who saved her life from the Blood-Bat Palace subalter master. The one she looked up to and was moved by. To encounter him here, Jiang Fan was slightly surprised. He thought everyone had long forgotten the no one shadow guard mask. Yet after so long, Yining still remembered. Since that was the case, he graciously jumped off the carriage, smiled, and said, "Long time no see, Yining." Hearing the familiar voice, he confirmed it was no one shadow guard. Water mist quickly gathered in Yining's eyes, turning into tears of grievance that rolled down her cheeks. She dismounted, lifted her dress, and rushed into Jiang Fan's embrace. Jiang Fan froze. "What are you?" Before he could ask, Yining was already crying sorrowfully. "Where did you go?" "I returned to Lonely Boat City but couldn't find you anywhere." Only she knew how many times she missed no one shadow guard after joining the Green Cloud Sect. Especially whenever she felt aggrieved, she would think of no one shadow guard's kindness. This time, she had been overshadowed by Su Yoren and Chen Sinning. She returned to Lonely Boat City feeling downcast, hoping to see no one shadow guard one more time, then gather herself and set out anew. But the Dragon Rising path had long been closed. The familiar stairs had unknowingly gathered a layer of dust, and a few small spiders quietly wove webs in the corners. On the street where he once saved her, the granny selling cakes was still there, and the children were still chattering around the old man making sugar figures. Everything seemed like it was just yesterday, except the figure of no one shadow guard was missing. As it turns out, things had changed while people had remained the same. The world was vast, but she had no place to return to, so she traveled far away. Listening to Yining crying louder in his embrace, Jiang Fan felt at a loss. In the Su mansion for 10 years, it was his first time seeing Yining cry so heartbreakingly. After hesitating for a moment, he gently patted her back and said, "Don't cry. Your master, Elder Ling, is very worried about you." Hearing this, Yining's tears finally stopped a little, and she looked ashamed. "I left willfully, causing trouble for my master. After returning from Myriad Sword Sect, I will go back to Green Cloud Sect." Jiang Fan felt relieved. He glanced at the True Thunder Sect disciples and said, "Join me for the journey. It will be easier for us to look after each other." Yining smiled through her tears, nodding repeatedly. "Okay." This was exactly what she wanted. "Junior sister Su, are you just going to leave like that?" Yet a handsome disciple beside Jin Yunli raised an eyebrow. "Don't forget, we saved your life." Chapter 302. Chapter 302, Using Kindness to Act Arrogantly Life-Saving Grace. Jiang Fan looked at Yining in confusion. "Did you encounter danger previously?" Yining nodded, her face showing a look of lingering fear, and said, "A few days ago, while crossing the new river within the Spirit Beast Sect's territory, I encountered a fierce water demon beast that almost capsized the boat I was on. Fortunately, Elder Jin was leading the disciples of the True Thunder Sect nearby and repelled the beast with a thunder strike. That's how I managed to save my life." A water demon beast in the new river. Could it be the red-scaled evil flood dragon? This beast comes and goes without a trace, making it difficult to injure effectively in the water. But thunder is an exception. A bolt of thunder in the water could injure any red-scaled evil flood dragon within 100 feet. If Jiang Fan had earlier cultivated the 3 pure thunder shadow, he wouldn't have had to go through such trouble luring and killing the red-scaled evil flood dragon. He cupped his hands toward Jin Yunli. "Thank you, Elder Jin, for saving her." Jin Yunli forced a smile. "Why thank me? If you want to thank someone, let the girl thank me." Yining did not flinch and bowed. "I am grateful to Elder Jin for rescuing me and for taking care of me these past few days. I will repay this kindness with my life. If there's ever anything you need, I will go through fire and water without hesitation. Now, I won't continue to disturb you." Her words were sincere and appropriate, leaving no room for rebuttal. Jin Yunli's eyes narrowed. He was never one to meddle in other people's affairs. He saved this girl by consuming the power of thunder because his disciple, Lu Shi, fancied her looks. Now, seeing her old flame, she wanted to leave after throwing herself into his arms. Wouldn't that make them look like fools? However, as the great elder, he couldn't argue with his disciple. He had to let Lu Shi handle it himself. The handsome, tall young man was Lu Shi. He slightly furrowed his sword-shaped eyebrows. "There's no need to repay with your life." "What use do we have for your life?" Knowing she was in the wrong, Yining did not argue about his attitude. She sincerely said, "Junior sister has little foundation, no wealth, and no power. Apart from repaying with my life, I don't know how else to repay you. Or if senior brother Lu needs help, junior sister will do her best to assist." Jiang Fan stood silently beside Yining. He sensed their ill intentions. If that were the case, he wouldn't turn a blind eye. Lu Shi, noticing Jiang Fan's movement, felt even more displeased and said, "Junior sister, you make it sound like our True Thunder Sect is forcing you." He had wanted to say, "Marry me." But Elder Ling was watching from the side. Not to mention whether she would intervene. Just the news of it would greatly damage their reputation. Thus, Lu Shi's eyes flickered, and he took a step back, saying, "We saved you considering the alliance of the 9 sect, not for your gratitude. However, when we saved you, my master was hunting a red-scaled evil flood dragon. My master needs its teeth to forge a magic artifact. To save you, he had to abandon the red-scaled evil flood dragon he already had. You can repay us with a red-scaled evil flood dragon, and we will call it even." Upon hearing this, Yining showed a troubled look. Having experienced its ferocity firsthand, she nearly became a meal for the beast. How could she possibly hunt one down? Moreover, the beast resided within the borders of the Spirit Beast Sect. She wouldn't be able to return to the Spirit Beast Sect anytime soon. Lu Shi's eyes flickered. "Our request is not unreasonable, right?" "Not at all, but—" Yining waved her hand. They wanted to recoup their losses. It wasn't unreasonable at all, but this request was something she couldn't fulfill now. Lu Shi then softened his tone. "Of course, I know asking junior sister to kill a red-scaled evil flood dragon is difficult. How about this, you follow us? When we cross the new river again, you assist us in slaying one and consider the debt repaid." "How does that sound?" Yining exhaled slightly. Lu Shi continued, "However, this means you will need to temporarily stay with us. Once we kill the red-scaled evil flood dragon, I will personally escort you back to the Green Cloud Sect." Jiang Fan sneered. So after going round and round, this was the main point. Just finding an excuse to keep Yining. As for what he would do once she stayed, it wasn't hard to imagine. Yining's face stiffened slightly, showing hesitation. She wasn't a fool. She could feel the hidden burning gaze Lu Shi had for her, and she understood well enough what awaited her if she stayed. Elder Ling coldly observed for a while. Being experienced, she naturally saw through Lu Shi's little thoughts clearly. If it were someone else, she might not meddle. But Yining was Jiang Fan's old flame. Jiang Fan was someone the sect master instructed to give special attention to. It wouldn't be right to stand by and do nothing. She walked to Yining's side, gently patted her shoulder and said, "Just come with us. A red-scaled evil flood dragon is nothing. I will have someone fetch one from the new river and send it to the True Thunder Sect later." Seeing the great elder of the Desire Sect helping her, Yining was overjoyed and gratefully said, "Thank you, Elder Ling." Elder Ling laughed. "Thank your friend here, he saved our Desire Sect master once. I help you once and we are even." Ah. Yining looked at Jiang Fan in shock. The Desire Sect master was such an esteemed figure. What kind of danger did she encounter that she needed the #1 shadow guard to save her? After not seeing him for a long time, one shadow guard's strength had not only not declined, but had become even more admirable. Her eyes sparkled with admiration, worthy of being the man who gave her a sense of security just thinking about him. "Elder Ling, you're meddling too much." Jin Yunli's voice turned cold. Seeing his treasured disciple almost ensnare Yining, Elder Ling interfered. "What, didn't you want a red-scaled evil flood dragon? I'll compensate you with one later. Is it not the same?" Elder Ling secretly scorned him. Petty tricks to try and trap a girl. Lu Shi grew both anxious and angry. This old woman, why meddle in this? He cast a pleading look at Jin Yunli. Even without his plea, Jin Yunli wouldn't let Elder Ling ruin his disciple's opportunity. He snorted. "Then I want it now. Can you produce one?" Elder Ling chuckled. "I'll give it to you after. Take it or leave it." Jin Yunli's body surged with spiritual power. "Ling Jinghu, what do you want to do?" Elder Ling was unafraid. "Is my intention not clear?" She shook, unleashing equally strong spiritual power. The disciples from both sides tensed up, glaring at each other. Just as the situation was about to explode, a calm voice rang out. "Elder Jin, was the red-scaled evil flood dragon you lost an adult or a juvenile?" The one who asked was none other than Jiang Fan. Chapter 303. Chapter 303. Right off, Jin Yunli glanced at Jiang Fan and said indifferently, "Why ask this?" Jiang Fan said, "Naturally, to compensate you on behalf of my friend." "You..." Jin Yunli sneered at the corner of his mouth. The red-scaled evil flood dragon, even if he wanted to capture it alive, it would not be easy. That day they weren't specifically rescuing Su Yining. They found a large number of red-scaled evil flood dragons around Su Yining, then made a move. However, the red-scaled evil flood dragons, moving like lightning in the water, immediately dived into the depths upon sensing danger. In the end, they returned empty-handed. He didn't believe that Jiang Fan, a mere disciple, could kill a red-scaled evil flood dragon. Lu Shi, harboring animosity towards Jiang Fan for stealing love, coldly snorted, trying to play hero to save the beauty? Fine, I'll fulfill your wish. The one that got away was an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon. If you have the capability, bring back one of its teeth. Those who didn't understand what an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon meant didn't feel anything. Jai Ryu snorted coldly. You've got the nerve to say that. An adult red-scaled evil flood dragon, have you even seen one? Do you know how powerful it is? Encountering one in the water, you wouldn't even live, let alone hunt it. Oh. Ling Jinghu asked in surprise, Ryu, have you seen one? Jai Ryu cupped her hands and said, reporting to the Great Elder, I personally saw one on the New River. The beast's strength reached the second level of core formation. It's extremely fierce even on land. In water, humans can't match it. The Great Elder of the Heavenly Sound Sect had an arm bitten off and became crippled by an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon. Hiss, only now did everyone realize the horror of the red-scaled evil flood dragon. Their gazes toward Lu Shi were filled with disdain. Ling Jinghu's face also changed. Even Ming Yulian had an arm bitten off. She looked at Lu Shi with a cold face and said, so young and already learning to extort. Is this the quality of the True Thunder Sect's chief disciple? Lu Shi's face stiffened. He did not expect that there were knowledgeable people present. For a moment, his guilty eyes flickered restlessly. Jin Yunli's expression also became serious. As it involved the sect's reputation, he quickly softened the tone. Just a juvenile my disciple remembered incorrectly. Immediately, he switched the subject back to Jiang Fan. What, can you produce a juvenile red-scaled evil flood dragon for me? Lu Shi also glared viciously at Jiang Fan. That's right, just a juvenile red-scaled evil flood dragon. So what, you talk as if you could hunt one. Jai Ryu couldn't help but think of Jiang Fan in her mind. The masked man here, she didn't know if he could do it. But Jiang Fan had slaughtered all the juvenile red-scaled evil flood dragons in the entire New River. Even the adult one fell to his sword. What stunned Jai Ryu was, Jiang Fan said calmly, I don't have a juvenile red-scaled evil flood dragon. However, I can give you an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon tooth if that's what you want. As he spoke, he produced an extremely long and sharp fang on the spot. Jai Ryu recognized it immediately and exclaimed, that adult red-scaled evil flood dragon's tooth. Why do you have it? Weren't those taken by Jiang Fan? Wait. She stared fixedly at Jiang Fan, suddenly realizing something and couldn't help but gasp. Could this person in front of her be Jiang Fan? Upon hearing this, everyone's faces changed drastically. Is this really an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon's tooth? And an adult one? Just by looking, you can tell this is top-grade material for refining tools. Ling Jinghu was also surprised and full of doubts about how Jiang Fan obtained it. Seeing Jiang Fan about to give it to Jin Yunli, she felt displeased and said, their target was the tooth of a juvenile red-scaled evil flood dragon. Giving them an adult tooth is too good for them. Don't give it to them. Today I'll protect you, they won't dare to act rashly. Jiang Fan cupped his hands gratefully, saying, thank you, Elder Ling. But, he then looked up at Jin Yunli, casually threw the tooth to him. Jin Yunli hurriedly caught it, and upon closely sensing it, showed a shocked expression. It was indeed an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon's tooth. Moreover, the material was fresh, the best for refining the magic artifact he needed. This made him ecstatic, yet he still showed a puzzled look, squinting his eyes. You want to compensate for our loss with this? Jiang Fan chuckled unceremoniously. Do you take me for a fool? 100 juvenile red-scaled evil flood dragons couldn't match one adult tooth. Jin Yunli awkwardly laughed. Gripping the tooth tightly, not willing to return it to Jiang Fan, he squinted his eyes. So what do you mean? This adult red-scaled evil flood dragon's tooth is for you, but the debt between you and Su Yining is settled, Jiang Fan said coldly. Just compensating for the loss wouldn't stop him from bringing up the life-saving favor later. Better to settle it all at once. To stop him from always coveting Su Yining. Lu Shi panicked, having grown fond of Su Yining over the past few days. Determined to make her his woman, now she would be completely free to leave. Is it so easy to offset a life-saving favor? Lu Shi hurriedly shouted. But just as he spoke, Jin Yunli interrupted him. With a broad smile, he quickly said, "Of course. From now on, I won't mention the life-saving favor again." Compared to helping a disciple get a woman, exchanging for a priceless tooth to refine a top-level magic artifact for himself, wasn't it 10 times, 100 times better? "Master," Lu Shi urgently called. Jin Yunli's face turned stern. He scolded, "Shut up. Master's decision, how could you question it?" Then he grinned at Su Yining. "You're quite lucky to meet a man willing to do so much for you. The debt between us is settled. Go," he laughed heartily, riding away. Lu Shi looked longingly at the beautiful Su Yining, then glared fiercely at Jiang Fan. Finally, with great reluctance, he chased after his master. As the True Thunder Sect members completely departed, Ling Jinghu exhaled a long breath, looking at Jiang Fan with a softened gaze. In a world full of cunning people, Jiang Fan's deed was truly outstanding. Then she looked at Su Yining with genuine envy, meaningfully saying, "Miss Su is quite fortunate." Su Yining's eyes shimmered, gazing at no one shadow guard, her voice slightly choked. "Why are you so foolish?" Although she didn't know the value of an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon's tooth, but seeing Jin Yunli's exuberant smile, not hesitating to scold his favorite disciple, it was obvious it was priceless. Yet no one shadow guard used it to repay her life-saving favor. Jiang Fan said nonchalantly, "It's just an external object, your safety is above all." He already had sorrow frost. The remaining 2 teeth were indeed not of much use. Using them to resolve Su Yining's trouble was quite worthwhile. "Come with me." He leaped onto the carriage. Su Yining was deeply moved. He spoke so lightly, but in this world, besides parents, who else was willing to give up such valuable things for her? She finally understood the feeling of being pampered by Jiang Fan, as Chen Silin and Su Yoren did. Thinking of this, a bit of sourness welled up in her heart. If no one shadow guard were Jiang Fan, how wonderful that would be. But she knew there was no if in the world. From the moment she threatened death to resist the arranged marriage, there was no outcome between them. "Miss Su, please get on," Ling Jinghu's voice reminded, bringing Su Yining back to reality. She shook her head, stopping herself from further thoughts. Looking at the horizon at the dust kicked up by the True Thunder Sect's departing group, she remembered something, showing a look of gratitude, saying, "Thankfully, Elder Ling refused to travel with them. Otherwise, you would have been in great trouble." Chapter 304. Chapter 304, Healing the Sword King O. Ling Jinghu asked in surprise, "Why?" Su Yining's face showed disdain as she said, "Not long ago, they encountered an elder who was badly injured by a demon beast. Instead of saving him, they took his sword. Later, they discovered that this sword was actually a top-grade magic weapon, and they realized they had caused a great disaster." Top-grade magic weapon. Ling Jinghu took a deep breath. There were only 2 top-grade magic swords in the 9-sect continent, one with the Supreme Sect and the other with Myriad Sword Sect, both held by the Supreme Elder. Jin Yunli not only didn't save them, but took advantage of the situation and stole the divine weapon. If this Supreme Elder survived, wouldn't he chase them down? No wonder Jin Yunli insisted on traveling with them. It turned out he wanted to shift the trouble eastward, making them share the burden. "That damned dog!" Understanding Jin Yunli's malicious intentions, Ling Jinghu cursed angrily on the spot. She didn't dare to stay any longer. She quickly drove the carriage away. Jiang Fan was utterly confused, not understanding why Ling Jinghu was so panicked, after hurrying for about half a day. There was a tea shed ahead on the official road where Ling Jinghu stopped and called everyone to rest. Everyone had been bumped around a lot along the way. Those who needed to stretch their limbs did so. Those who needed to relieve themselves did so. Ling Jinghu, however, sat down heavily at a tea table, looking preoccupied. But just as she sat down, a cold, elderly voice came to her ear. "Why are you here?" She turned her head to look. Behind her, an old man stood with his hands behind his back. He appeared ethereal and dignified, wearing a clean and simple green robe. His cheeks were thin, hair gray-white, and a righteous aura between his brows. Others may not recognize him. Ling Jinghu, who had seen him not long ago, certainly knew him. She shivered inside. Quickly stood up, bowing respectfully. "Senior Su, why are you here?" The person in front of her was none other than the Supreme Elder of Myriad Sword Sect. SuKing. Compared to yesterday, his skin looked slightly pale. Clearly, he had been injured. At this moment, he stared at Ling Jinghu with a hint of suspicion in his eyes. "I asked you." Ling Jinghu felt bitter in her heart. The person whose sword was taken away was undoubtedly SuKing. but he seemed not to know who it was and conveniently ran into their group, thus suspecting them. She hurriedly said, "To be honest, Senior, our sect master later killed another silver-winged thunderbird. I was ordered to deliver it to Myriad Sword Sect and hand it over to you. Unexpectedly, I met you here, Senior." SuKing glanced at their carriage. Sure enough, he found a huge demon beast's corpse covered with cloth. His cold expression softened slightly, but his eyes still carried some suspicion. "Let me ask you, have you passed by Xian Mountain?" Ling Jinghu's heart skipped a beat, knowing SuKing suspected her. She didn't dare to hide anything and said, "Reporting to Senior, it was the people from True Thunder Sect who took your sword. It has nothing to do with our Desire Sect." Upon hearing this, SuKing's face turned stiff. Looking around, he said hurriedly, "Shut up! Who asked about the sword?" The dignified Supreme Elder of Myriad Sword Sect, the first Sword King of the Nine-Sect continent, ranked among the top 3 contemporary world-class experts. Had his life-bound magical artifact taken away? If it spread, how could he keep his face? Ling Jinghu was stunned, then understood SuKing's intention, quickly said, "Yes, Senior, I misspoke." SuKing glared at her. "I will travel with you for a while. Don't reveal my identity." Ling Jinghu was dumbfounded, then immediately realized SuKing was still heavily injured, not suitable for rushing travel. She quickly said, "Senior, how did you get such severe injuries?" SuKing replied with some annoyance, "Isn't it because of your Desire Sect master? Without the silver-winged thunderbird, I went west to see if there were any more. As a result, not long after going deep west, I encountered the sky-devouring tiger, one of the 4 great demon kings under the demon emperor. Although I seriously injured it, I ended up with serious injuries too." Ling Jinghu was horrified. Sky-devouring tiger? Under the demon emperor, there were 4 great demon kings at the core formation realm perfection, about to take on human form. Immensely powerful. Ordinary supreme elders encountering them would have slim chances of survival. It was only thanks to Senior SuKing's divine swordsmanship and unfathomable strength that he managed to survive. But immediately, Ling Jinghu became extremely uneasy. "There is a trace of the 4 great demon kings in the west of our Desire Sect. If the beast tide erupts, won't our Desire Sect?" SuKing held his chest, where blood seeped faintly. He sighed deeply. "This tiger's injuries are worse than mine. If other great demon kings don't replace it, the beast tide in the west will not erupt in the near future." Upon hearing this, Ling Jinghu breathed a sigh of relief. Senior SuKing had risked his life to quell a huge hidden danger in the west of Desire Sect. She bowed deeply. "Thank you, Senior Su. You can rest assured on this trip. I will definitely escort you to Myriad Sword Sect." Before long, the disciples returned and gathered. Noticing an old man added to the group, they were quite puzzled. Jiang Fan also looked confused, vaguely feeling that this old man looked familiar, but couldn't place him. It wasn't surprising that he didn't recognize him. SuKing also didn't recognize Jiang Fan. At that time it was night. Both sides could only see each other's outline, not the details. "I am a friend of your Elder Ling, happened to meet you, and will be accompanying you for a while." SuKing looked around and said with a smile, "Meeting a friend in the wilderness?" Jiang Fan was skeptical. However, this wasn't important, though this friend of Elder Ling seemed seriously injured. "Senior, do you not have any healing pills?" Jiang Fan noticed the blood still seeping from the other's chest. SuKing didn't hide it. "The thing that injured me is very poisonous. Without removing the poison, healing pills are useless." Jiang Fan nodded. "I know a bit about medical skills. If you don't mind, I can help remove the poison." SuKing hesitated. The poison of the sky-devouring tiger was notoriously troublesome, and only the undying doctor had been able to cure it. Now, even if his disciple Shangyuan Sheng personally tried, he might not be able to remove it. How could this young man in front of him manage? But thinking further, even if he couldn't remove the poison, simply treating the wound would be good. "All right, treat it on the carriage." He just wanted to return to the sect quickly, use the heaven and earth spiritual treasures to suppress the poison, and then seek a chance to detoxify it. Otherwise, he would die from the poison. Ling Jinghu was a bit worried. "Do you really know medical skills?" The person in front of him was none other than SuKing, one of the top 3 super experts in the Nine-Sect land. If any mistakes were made during treatment, how could they bear the consequences? Jiang Fan said, "Simply removing the poison should not be a problem." After speaking, he jumped onto the carriage. At this point, SuKing had already unbuttoned his chest. Jiang Fan looked and was shocked. A claw mark stretched across the chest, the wound smooth as a mirror. What a fierce creature, its claws are sharper than divine weapons. Even with a high-grade magical artifact, Jiang Fan wasn't sure he could cut out such a smooth wound. The demon beast that attacked the elder must have incredibly sharp claws. Moreover, the poison is quite extraordinary. Jiang Fan took out a piece of jade and touched the wound. As a result, the jade emitted hissing sounds. It was being corroded. Logically, such strong poison should have killed him instantly. This old man managed to hold on until now. SuKing said gently, "Just help me bandage the wound. It's normal if you can't cure it. Don't push yourself." Jiang Fan quietly took out the blue flame silver needle, saying, "It might hurt a bit later, bear with it." SuKing smiled wryly, such a stubborn young man. Unfortunately, stubbornness alone couldn't cure this poison. "No need, just bandage it." "Wait." SuKing suddenly sat up, eyes staring intently at the silver needle in Jiang Fan's hand. With a surprised and questioning look, "Why do you have the Undying Doctor's silver needle?" Chapter 305. Chapter 305. Teaching the sword control technique, the Undying Doctor was an old friend of his, so he recognized the blue flame silver needle at a glance. Jiang Fan was surprised that this elder had such extensive experience and could identify the origin of the silver needle. He took out the silver needles one by one, saying, "They were given to me by Divine Dr. Xiangyuan." Divine Dr. Xiangyuan. Such a precious set of silver needles, he gave it to a young man. SuKing felt a wave of sadness. "Old guy, you have no successor. Your favorite set of silver needles in life is now being messed around by your disciples after your death. You must be so sad in your grave right now, aren't you?" Thinking of this, he said, "Young boy, I also like this set of silver needles very much. Can you part with them and sell them to me? Ask for whatever you want." He wanted to retrieve the silver needles and pass them on to someone reliable. It would be the last thing he could do for his old friend. Ling Jinghu, sitting beside and not daring to breathe, was shocked. This was a promise from the strongest person in the Nine-Sect land. Exchanging a set of silver needles for such a promise was like a pie falling from the sky. Her eyes were red with envy. Jiang Fan was momentarily stunned, then he said without thinking, "The gift from an old friend, how could I sell it to someone else?" "Lie down, senior, I need to administer the needles." SuKing showed visible regret and sighed without hiding it. "You might not know how to use these needles." With that, he lay down. He waited for Jiang Fan to start administering the needles before telling him what happens when these needles are used. Jiang Fan, unhurriedly, conjured flames in his palm, toasting all the blue flame silver needles. Moments later, a faint blue flame appeared at the tail end of each silver needle. Under Jiang Fan's control, each needle connected end to end, forming what looked like a silver dragon with blue joints. This sight made SuKing's eyes blur for a moment. Then his old eyes widened. "You, how could you possibly know how to use these needles?" This method was exactly the same as the Undying Doctor's back then. Jiang Fan did not respond, concentrating intensely on manipulating the silver needles and inserting them into corresponding acupoints. The next moment, a jet-black stream of blood shot out from SuKing's chest, striking the ceiling of the carriage. With a hiss, the wooden ceiling was instantly corroded with holes. Sunlight poured through the holes, casting spots of light, which shone on SuKing's astonished face. It wasn't until Jiang Fan withdrew the needles and placed each one back into the jade box that SuKing seemed to awaken from a dream. Feeling the deadly poison drained from his body, he showed an expression of utter surprise. You! His astonishment was beyond words. The deadly poison of the sky-devouring tiger, and there was someone other than the Undying Doctor who could cure it. No wonder Xiangyuan Sheng gave him the blue flame silver needles. Turns out, this boy was a naturally gifted divine doctor. His heart was filled with deep comfort. "Old fool, you must be grinning from ear to ear now, aren't you?" SuKing reminisced. Then he looked at Jiang Fan with a gentle gaze. "Your medical skills are impressive. What do you want as a reward?" Jiang Fan, having put away the needles, said calmly, "There's no need. Elder Ling helped me and my friend. I did it on her behalf. If you want to thank someone, thank her." SuKing nodded approvingly, humble despite great merit, a person of excellent character. Where did that old guy Xiangyuan Sheng find such a person? He nodded slightly and casually tossed Ling Jinghu a bottle of pills. "Take it." Ling Jinghu caught it, looked closely, and shivered in excitement. "Yuan condensing pill? A mid-grade Yuan condensing pill?" The Yuan condensing pill was essential for martial artists in the core formation realm to advance their cultivation. The required medicinal ingredients were extremely rare. Most core formation realm martial artists wouldn't consume many pills in their lifetime. Mid-grade yuan condensing pills were even rarer in the world. With this yuan condensing pill, Ling Jinghu might break through to the next realm. This made her incredibly grateful. She had only said a few words on behalf of Jiang Fan's friend and received such a huge reward. While feeling grateful, she also blamed Jiang Fan for being foolish. The elder in front of him was the Sword King SuKing. He offered benefits, yet Jiang Fan refused. She turned her gaze and said, "Boy, Senior Su is a master of swordsmanship. If he teaches you a bit of swordsmanship, it will benefit you for a lifetime." Her words were both a reminder for Jiang Fan and a message to SuKing. If you really want to thank Jiang Fan, give something you are best at. SuKing understood Ling Jinghu's meaning and smiled slightly. Old man naturally will thank this boy generously. However, he can't learn my swordsmanship. Ling Jinghu looked embarrassed. She had hoped to get some swordsmanship skills for Jiang Fan, but SuKing didn't seem willing to teach it. Don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm stingy, SuKing sighed lightly. The swordsmanship I practice is not an ordinary art. It requires an extraordinary talent to learn. I've tried to teach many of the top sword practitioners of the time, but none could learn it. They became trapped in my swordsmanship, wasting their lives trying to understand it. His face showed an unmistakable sorrow. As the Supreme Elder of the Myriad Sword Sect, he had always hoped that someone in the sect could inherit his sword control technique and maintain Myriad Sword Sect's status as the top sword Dao sect. Unfortunately, even the current sect leader, his former favorite disciple, did not possess the sword path talent to understand his ultimate skill. Now, he was over 80 years old. If he couldn't break through to the legendary nascent soul realm, he would sit down and die in a few years or at most 20 years. His ultimate skill would vanish with his death. With a hint of regret, he looked at Jiang Fan and sighed, "Teaching you my swordsmanship would only harm you. Better to learn something else." The sword control technique was too extraordinary. Once seen, one would get deeply immersed and unable to extract oneself. It was very easy to waste a lot of time and end up with nothing. Jiang Fan subtly shook his head. Wasn't this old man's talk a bit too exaggerated? All the top sword practitioners of the time got lost in it and wasted their years. Wasn't the sect leader of the Myriad Sword Sect a great sword Dao master, just for show? Moreover, the Myriad Sword Sect must have many supreme elders like the Green Cloud Sect. Were they all incapable? Listening to such unreliable words, Jiang Fan was even less inclined to accept his benefits. He said calmly, "I already said I don't want seniors' benefits. Just thank Elder Ling, that's enough." SuKing raised his eyebrows. Jiang Fan didn't believe him, but it was normal. Without witnessing the sword control technique firsthand, anyone would think their sword path talent was unique. Only after studying the sword control technique would they realize how mediocre they were in the path of the sword. He sighed slightly. "All right, I'll give you the first volume. Take it to study. Just to have a look. If you can't understand it, don't be discouraged, got it?" Saying this, he pulled out half a sword manual and tossed it to Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan caught it with an inexplicable expression. Could it be that exaggerated? Looking at this half-volume of the sword manual didn't seem reliable. With a skeptical attitude, he opened the sword manual to look. He found that it wasn't a text record of the sword manual, but a series of flowing sword chi. He was not unfamiliar with such ultimate arts. A quick glance revealed nothing difficult to understand. It would take him only a 2-hour period to comprehend it. "How about it? I didn't lie to you, right?" SuKing chuckled. He could already imagine. At this moment, Jiang Fan was facing a sword manual he couldn't understand and feeling utterly frustrated. Chapter 306. Chapter 306 Sword Heart Initial Formation. Chapter 306. Chapter 306 Sword Heart Initial Formation. Jiang Fan's lips twitched slightly. This old man really was narcissistic about his own swordsmanship to the extreme. He didn't want to discourage the other party. So he cupped his hands humbly. "Senior's swordsmanship is profound. It's truly difficult for this junior to comprehend it in a short time." SuKing nodded slightly. This was within his expectations. "Don't be disheartened. Finding it difficult is normal. If you could comprehend it easily, I would suspect that I gave you the wrong sword manual." He comforted and exhorted. "This sword technique, try to comprehend it a few more times. If it remains too difficult, you can give up. Remember not to get lost in it." Jiang Fan secretly shook his head. He was just being polite, and the old man took it seriously. He didn't want to listen to this old man brag anymore and nodded. "Thank you for the guidance, senior. This junior will take his leave now." He left the carriage, but saw Yining looking at him with a face full of surprise. Cured? She asked. Jiang Fan nodded. It's not a big problem. Su Yining thought for a moment. Indeed, if it were a major injury, how could it be healed in such a short time? She nodded slightly and asked curiously, did that senior give you anything good? Since that old man was a friend of Ling Jinghu, his status must be quite high. Healing him, he wouldn't be so stingy as to give nothing, right? Jiang Fan hesitated for a moment, then said, he gave me half a scroll of a cultivation technique. What? Su Yining was astonished. What kind of person was that old man? Just for treating a minor injury, he casually gave someone a cultivation technique. In the Nine Sect land nowadays, cultivation techniques were rare and valuable, and wouldn't be easily spread. She couldn't help but feel envious. Had I known, I would have learned some medical skill too. Picking up an injured senior could bring such fortune. Jiang Fan was speechless. What fortune? That sword technique didn't even have a name or grade, and it was only half of a scroll. He didn't even know what he had received. At this moment, Ling Jinghu also got off the carriage and waved to Su Yining. Miss Su, come here for a moment. Su Yining quickly stepped forward with respect. Elder Ling, what are your instructions? Ling Jinghu looked at her kindly. It's a pity you're already a disciple of the Green Cloud Sect. Otherwise, I might have considered accepting you as a closed-door disciple. Su Yining was flattered. This was the great elder of the Desire Sect. She had average aptitude. What merit did she have to earn such favor? Thank you for Elder Ling's love. This junior is deeply grateful, she responded politely. Ling Jinghu sighed repeatedly. She didn't want to just accept Jiang Fan's kindness for nothing. Otherwise, she wouldn't feel at ease using that incredibly valuable mid-grade yuan condensing pill. Therefore, after some thought, she took out a carried jade scroll and said, this is my life mental method that I have cultivated for many years. It's a high-grade profound level technique, and now I give it to you. Su Yining was startled. A high-grade profound level technique. This was something only elders could cultivate in the Green Cloud Sect. Moreover, it was a very rare type of mental method. She quickly waved her hands. This junior doesn't dare. This junior doesn't dare. Receiving such a great favor for no reason, how could she dare accept? Ling Jinghu stuffed it into her arms. No need for politeness. Your friend healed my friend's illness. That friend was so pleased they gifted me a treasure. I'll repay this favor through you. The reason Jiang Fan intervened was because she had protected Su Yining. Repaying the favor to her now was the best way. Su Yining was full of curiosity. Elder Ling, no one shadow guard merely treated a small injury. Does your old friend need to give such a grand gift? She couldn't understand. A minor injury. Ling Jinghu was stunned. Don't you know that your friend is a divine doctor? What? Divine doctor? No one shadow guard. Su Yining was shocked and murmured, how could he be a divine doctor? She had never heard of it. Ling Jinghu said meaningfully, it seems you don't really understand your friend. He's not only a divine doctor, but one who has inherited the undying doctor's skills. What? Su Yining was thoroughly stunned. She looked at no one shadow guard who brought a new carriage with awe and unfamiliarity in her eyes. The friend who came out of Lonely Boat City together with her. When did he become a top-level divine doctor in the Nine Sect land? Elder Ling Yining, I exchanged for a new carriage from a tea customer. This one is newer and more comfortable. Let the senior ride in this one since he is injured. Ling Jinghu's eyes brightened slightly, and she praised, you are so considerate. It was an excellent opportunity to show up in front of SuKing. She hadn't thought of it, but Jiang Fan had. As she said that, she glanced at a few indifferent Desire Sect disciples and reprimanded, you're all like dead weights. Learn from him. Understanding human nature can save you several years of effort. The Desire Sect disciples innocently felt wronged. What did we do to deserve this? Yeah, Omicron U letter 1E5 Omicron, letter 1D04 Omicron. Jiang Fan dryly laughed. Stop talking. Quickly get the senior moved to the new carriage. He wasn't considering the old man's injury. He was worried about his purple sword and ancient zither hidden under the carriage being found. Soon, SuKing was moved to the new carriage. Jiang Fan drove his own carriage, following not too far behind. This journey not only included Ling Jinghu, but also one of her old friends. Safety wasn't an issue at all. He rarely felt at ease. He took out the half-scroll of swordsmanship given by the old man and carefully examined it. Externally cultivate sword chi, internally nurture sword heart. Where the heart directs, the sword points, Jiang Fan murmured. He looked a bit perplexed. Is this swordsmanship? Why does it feel strange? Thinking, he carefully tried to comprehend the strands of sword chi within. An hour later, his gaze suddenly turned sharp. Using 2 fingers as a sword, he pointed to the sky. Rise! With a low shout, the sorrow frost sword on his back clanged, and inexplicably, without any external force, it unsheathed itself. Because it was just a test. It unsheathed halfway and then fell back into the sheath because of the lack of continued force. This, Jiang Fan was shocked. What kind of swordsmanship is this? It can control a flying sword from a distance. Could it be the legendary sword control technique? He recalled the day outside Desire's city, where a mysterious expert pointed, and the long sword shot through the air like an arrow to kill the enemy. Was what he was practicing a similar sword control technique? Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited. He quickly sat cross-legged, fully concentrating on cultivating according to the method he comprehended. In the carriage ahead, SuKing, who had been resting with his eyes closed, suddenly sat up. His old eyes flashed with surprise. Ling Jinghu, who was caring for him, was taken aback by his action. "Senior Su, what's wrong?" SuKing showed a somewhat uncertain expression and said in shock, "Just now, someone was practicing sword control technique." Ling Jinghu was stunned. In the Nine Sect land, the only one who mastered sword control technique was him, wasn't it? She comforted, "Senior Su, you must have heard wrong." However, SuKing suddenly stood up. "No mistake. I felt the fluctuation of the sword heart. Someone has mastered the sword control technique. Who is it?" Chapter 307. Chapter 307. Daughter of the Demon Emperor. Chapter 307. Chapter 307. Daughter of the Demon Emperor. He rushed out of the carriage. He looked around. Soon he spotted Jiang Fan, who was sitting cross-legged and cultivating. "Have you mastered the sword control technique?" Jiang Fan opened his eyes. A flash of surprise crossed his eyes. This swordsmanship was truly the sword control technique. The elder before him was the peerless expert who had used the sword control technique to kill the silver-winged thunderbird from a distance last night. Yeomikron knew letter 1E50, letter 1D040. No wonder he looked familiar. He had plucked all the feathers of the silver-winged thunderbird and taken the most valuable demon core. Now he had given him the sword control technique that he took pride in. If he recognized him, wouldn't that be a beautiful scene? Jiang Fan shivered just thinking about it. He pondered how to cover up the noise of the sorrow frost sword being unsheathed earlier. SuKing suddenly realized something, saying, "I was too hasty to suspect you. You only got the sword manual an hour ago." Even he had taken 10 years to master the sword control technique. Moreover, without enough sword path talent, even 100 years might not be enough to master this swordsmanship. An hour, unless he was a celestial being, he could not comprehend it. He jumped onto the roof of the carriage. Looking around, he shouted, "Which fellow Taoist is practicing the sword control technique here? Please show yourself so we can discuss it." Ling Jinghu hurried over, scanning the surroundings. She paused slightly when she passed Jiang Fan, then looked away. She didn't think for a moment that it could be Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan scratched his nose, saying nothing. He let the two current powerhouses search around with no trace, then interrupted, "Senior Su, we don't know if this person is friend or foe." "Why insist on having him show himself?" SuKing's eyebrows raised. He had only taught people of good character the sword control technique. But it was hard to guarantee that the sword control technique wouldn't leak into the hands of vile people. Jiang Fan's reminder made his heart shiver. He was so excited about someone mastering his sword control technique that he forgot he was injured. "Leave immediately," he said sternly. Jiang Fan chuckled secretly, and they resumed their journey. He continued to follow not too closely, silently cultivating this legendary sword control technique. This time he was cautious. He only cultivated and dared not use the technique recklessly again, lest the elder discover him. Half a day passed. He skillfully circulated the spiritual power within his body, letting it flow through him. If anyone could use X-ray vision, they would see that the flow of his spiritual power inside him resembled a drawn sword, a sign that his sword heart had reached great success. The sword moved with his heart. Where the heart directed, the sword pointed. If he had a sword in hand now, a mere thought would allow him to cut enemies from a distance. Jiang Fan's face was full of excitement. He looked at the sorrow frost sword on his knee, itching to demonstrate it right away. But unfortunately, the elder was in the carriage ahead. If he moved, the other would immediately notice. Screech, suddenly, the carriage in front stopped abruptly. The horses reared up, letting out terrified whinnies. The people inside the carriage jumped out one after another, looking ahead in confusion and worry. They saw the corpses of several horses scattered haphazardly on the official road. Their limbs were torn apart. Internal organs were strewn all over the place, as if they had been torn apart alive by some terrifying creature. and what made them narrow their eyes even more was that they could vaguely see some human limbs. Jiang Fan came over to take a look. Feeling a chill, he couldn't help but grip the Sorrow Frost sword tightly, saying in a deep voice, "They are disciples of the True Thunder Sect." The fragments of clothing on those limbs were faintly recognizable. Exactly the attire of the True Thunder Sect disciples they had encountered not long ago. Ling Jinghu was shocked. What did they encounter? Even the disciples met with misfortunate ends. She knew very well the power of Jin Yunli. Among the great elders of the Ninth Sect, he was definitely in the top 3. His thunder power was considered invincible in the same realm, but he couldn't protect his disciples. At this moment, Jiang Fan's peripheral vision caught something in the grass beside the official road. He picked it up with his sword from the grass. Seeing it, his face changed slightly. The tooth of the red-scaled evil flood dragon. Ling Jinghu recognized it, exclaiming in surprise, "Wasn't this kept by Jin Yunli? He actually lost it too." But Jiang Chen's face became extremely solemn. Without even picking up the tooth, he rushed towards the carriage, shouting, "Go, quickly!" "We cannot stay here." Ling Jinghu was startled. Although it was dangerous here, was it as exaggerated as Jiang Fan made it out to be? But then she suddenly realized something. Her face changed dramatically. Jin Yunli had even scolded his favorite disciple for this tooth. Now that he lost it, he didn't even dare to pick it up and fled immediately. It showed they had encountered something terrifying. Shivering, she hurriedly said, "Let's go." SuKing looked grave. Seeing the signs of the torn bodies, he felt a vague unease in his heart. 100 miles away, in a dense black-pressed forest, there were terrifying demon beasts exuding fierce auras. Their bodies were huge, their eyes fierce, their presence overwhelmingly strong. There were about 100 of them. All of them were beast kings of the core formation realm. So many beast kings could bring destruction to any of the 9 sects. However, what was shocking was that this group of world-destroying beast kings was completely silent. Each of them was lying on the ground, not daring to breathe. Before them lay a ferocious tiger covered in black flames with 3 heads. It was one of the 4 great demon kings under the demon emperor, the sky-devouring tiger. At the moment, its middle head was half severed. Its body bore several gaping sword wounds, constantly bleeding. Its eyes were full of pain, yet it didn't dare make a sound. Because on its back sat a girl in a blood-red dress, resting her chin in her hand, showing a dissatisfied expression. Her skin was unusually fair, her long hair curly, with a straight nose and deep-set eyes. A pair of blue eyes gleamed like 2 gemstones. The figure under the red dress was fiery, not matching her age. She held her snowy cheek with her left hand, toying with a bronze long sword emitting strong pressure with her right. The swirling sword chi lifted her long hair, revealing a pair of horns barely visible among her hair. These were not something humans had. "So you chased the wrong person?" The girl in the blood-red dress squinted her blue eyes. She stared straight at the beast kings in front of her. A terrifying demon beast with claws larger than its body, second only in ferocity to the sky-devouring tiger. It trembled, lying on the ground, pleading in fear. "We were tracking the aura of this sword, not expecting that the one holding it was no longer the Supreme Elder of Myriad Sword Sect, but the great Elder of True Thunder Sect." The girl in the blood-red dress snorted through her nose. "I only care about the result, not the process. Leading 100 beast kings, yet you can't kill a severely injured human. Of what use are you?" With that, blue light gathered in her blue eyes, exuding an extremely dangerous aura. The clawed demon beast was terrified, pleading desperately, "Spare me, young master, spare me." The sky-devouring tiger quickly pleaded, "Young master, please give Lengu another chance. SuKing is critically injured, he can't get far, we can surely intercept him on his route." The girl in the blood-red dress was none other than the demon emperor's daughter, born with a humanoid form. At just 18, she possessed immense strength. Her physique was at the 3rd level of core formation. Learning that her closest ally, the sky-devouring tiger, was severely wounded, she came to the west, leading the demon beasts for revenge. Hearing the sky-devouring tiger's plea, she withdrew the blue light from her eyes, snorting, "Within 3 days, I want to see SuKing's head." Lengu, trembling, said, "Yes, I will bring his head." With that, he led the demon beasts away. As the surroundings cleared, the girl in the blood-red dress asked, "How's the task I gave you, tiger?" Sky-devouring tiger looked troubled, saying, "We were a step too late. The white crystal beast you were seeking is already dead." "What?" The girl in the blood-red dress stood up suddenly, looking anxious. "Then what about the Dan book silver scroll on it?" Chapter 308. Chapter 308, The Secret of the Pill Book Silver Scroll, Chapter 308. Chapter 308, The Secret of the Pill Book Silver Scroll, the sky-devouring tiger answered cautiously. I found out that the most valuable eyes of the white crystal beast were sold at the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion auction. As for the Dan Book Silver Scroll on its body, its whereabouts are unknown. The blood-skirted girl's face changed dramatically. The Dan Book Silver Scroll is the key to the Demon Emperor Secret Realm. The Demon Emperor Secret Realm is the cultivation cave of the former dominator of the Demon Realm, the Howling Moon Sky Wolf. Jihuk Armenian, Inus, new letter 1E50. Omicron as a peerless demon emperor at the late nascent soul stage, just one step away from entering the divinity transformation realm, he left countless hidden treasures in his cave. He once made 24 Dan Book Silver Scrolls. With this scroll, one could enter his Demon Emperor Secret Realm for cultivation. He suddenly died back then, and the 24 Dan Book Silver Scrolls scattered across the Demon Realm, causing countless bloody storms. The blood-skirted girl's father, the current Demon Emperor, was incredibly lucky to obtain one Dan Book Silver Scroll. From an obscure beast king, he broke through to become a Demon Emperor in one fell swoop. Now she also wanted to follow in her father's footsteps and become a female Demon Emperor. After years of investigation, she finally discovered through clues that one of the Dan Book Silver Scrolls was in the Nine Sect land. According to the clues, a descendant of the Howling Moon Sky Wolf was hidden in the Nine Sect land. It was very likely that the Dan Book Silver Scroll was on its body. To this end, the blood-skirted girl personally infiltrated the Nine Sect land. But the current news made her especially angry. Who is it? Which demon beast intercepted it? The sky-devouring tiger shook its head. It doesn't seem to be the work of the demon race. It looks more like it was killed by someone. The Dan Book Silver Scroll, if I'm not wrong, should be on the body of the person who killed it. The blood-skirted girl became both anxious and angry, saying, "Find out for me. Dig 3 feet into the ground if you have to, but find this person. If he is sensible, he'd better hand over the Dan Book Silver Scroll obediently. I will spare his life and even give him some fortune. If he's not sensible, then don't blame me for being ruthless." The road to becoming a demon emperor is even more difficult than that of humans reaching the nascent soul stage. Any 1 in a million chance is a stroke of unprecedented luck. And now that there's a Dan Book Silver Scroll right in front of her, how could she let it go? The sky-devouring tiger nodded. "Yes, young master." After a pause, it worriedly said, "Young master, you should leave this matter to a subordinates. You should return to the Demon Palace soon. If you're recognized in the Nine Sect land, the martial artists there will never let you go." The blood-skirted girl nodded slightly. "Knowing you're still alive, I am relieved. I will return soon. However, since the Myriad Sword Sect hurt you so badly, I also need to make them pay a small price." There were dangerous sparks in her eyes. The sky-devouring tiger's heart skipped a beat and said, "Young master, what are you planning?" It had a bad premonition. The blood-skirted girl squinted and smiled. "I heard that the elite disciples of the Nine Sect are all heading to Sword Forest for training. What if I mix in and kill them, then frame the Myriad Sword Sect? Wouldn't the various sects demand an explanation from the Myriad Sword Sect? Those who can go to the Myriad Sword Sect for training are at least at the 8th layer of foundation establishment, or even the 9th layer. They are absolutely the best of the best in their sect. Even losing one would be enough to make the sects heartbroken. If they lost several, what sect could bear it? They would be furious, and it would be strange if they didn't cause trouble for the Myriad Sword Sect." The sky-devouring tiger's expression changed, and it hurriedly said, "Young master, you mustn't. The Myriad Sword Sect is full of experts. If you are recognized, you won't be able to escape." The blood-skirted girl smiled slightly. She took out a black pearl the size of a thumb from her bosom and swallowed it in one gulp. This was the inner core of a demon beast known as the Mirage. After swallowing it, the blood-skirted girl's demon race aura was completely concealed. The pair of sharp horns on her head also became invisible to the naked eye. Even the Supreme Elder of the Myriad Sword Sect wouldn't be able to recognize me? The blood-skirted girl smiled mysteriously, revealing 2 rows of clean white teeth. Meanwhile, about Jiang Fan's group, 2 carriages took a remote mountain road, circling half of the Desire Sect, and entered the Myriad Sword Sect territory after several days. They were passing through a hilly area. Their journey was very secretive, but SuKing Yang's heart was still filled with unease that wouldn't go away. He glanced at his chest wounds, which were almost healed, and his uneasy heart finally calmed a bit. After the poison was removed, he relied on his strong physique to restore the injuries to the greatest extent. He had now regained 50% of his strength. As long as no 4 great Demon King-level beings came, he should be able to handle it without much trouble. Of course, if a group came, that would be another matter. The carriage driver, Ling Jinghu, slowed down as they arrived in the Myriad Swords Sect territory. He told Jiang Fan in the back, "Let's rest for a while." Jiang Fan frowned slightly. "Elder Ling, it's better to rest when we reach the main town of the Myriad Swords Sect." What kind of existence could scare Jin Yunli to the point where he didn't even dare to pick up his teeth? The mere thought of it made him shudder. Ling Jinghu muttered, "Is this kid overly cautious?" SuKing, however, showed a hint of appreciation. "I think this mindset is quite good. In the martial path, talent determines your upper limit, but your mindset determines your lower limit. As long as he has decent talent, his future achievements won't be low." Ling Jinghu carefully considered this and found it quite reasonable. The 9-sect land had produced countless prodigies over the years, but only a handful of them grew up to become the powerful figures of today. Most of the prodigies perished along the way. A major reason for this was a lack of caution, dying from various accidents. It would be hard for anyone to harm Jiang Fan given his caution. "However, we can endure it, but the disciples and the 2 horses can't." Ling Jinghu smiled bitterly. SuKing then noticed that the 2 horses, having run for 3 days and 3 nights straight, were foaming at the mouth despite being fed precious spirit pills. The disciples in the carriage were similarly shaken to the point of having their bones nearly dislocated. They were slumped in the carriage, too weak to keep their eyes open. If they continued to run, they would encounter problems before reaching the Myriad Swords Sect. He could only say, "All right, a brief rest then." Upon hearing this, the disciples acted as if they had been saved, dragging their aching bodies as they struggled to get out of the carriage to rest. SuKing looked at these weakened disciples with a helpless expression. Suddenly, he was surprised to see that Jiang Fan at the back was moving as if nothing had happened. He lightly jumped out of the carriage and even had the energy to climb a tall tree to scout the surroundings, ensuring safety. SuKing was astonished and thought he saw something. Could this kid be trained in body refinement? It looks like he's completely unscathed. It was worth noting that these disciples were resting in a comfortable carriage, but Jiang Fan had been riding on a horseback, enduring an even bumpier ride. "Come here," his eyes flashed, and he said. Upon hearing the command, Jiang Fan leaped down. Bang, a muffled sound echoed as his feet hit the ground, causing it to vibrate slightly. The soil and stones were sent flying. There were 2 footprints left on the ground. Seeing this scene, Ling Jinghu was taken aback. This physique is at least at the 2nd level of core formation, but his spiritual power seems to be only at the foundation establishment realm. SuKing was even more astonished and asked suspiciously, "Are you a disciple of the giant sect?" Looking at this masked young man, he became curious. Jiang Fan answered truthfully, "I learned body refinement on my own. Please forgive me for making you laugh, elders." SuKing waved his hand. "No need to be humble. Your body refinement is no less than that of the current chief disciple of the giant sect. If they knew someone had self-taught body refinement and caught up with their most proud prodigies, their faces would turn unsightly." He joked. It was evident he didn't have a good opinion of the giant sect either. Jiang Fan was at a loss whether to laugh or cry. Strictly speaking, the Iron Blood True Scripture was actually the body-refining method of the giant sect. It was just that they lacked a soul master and couldn't cultivate successfully. That's why it benefited Jiang Fan. However, body refinement consumes a lot of resources later on. SuKing stroked his beard. Jiang Fan nodded slightly. A trace of worry appeared in his brows. He had managed to cultivate to this point thanks to Tai Bubai's Wind Bloodstone. But such rare items were extremely scarce in the 9-sect land. Even if they existed, they were in the hands of current powerhouses like Tai Bubai and would never be sold. He couldn't possibly rob them, could he? If nothing unexpected happened, his body refinement technique wouldn't be able to advance for a long time. "If you want to continue cultivating, I could lend you a hand." Suddenly, SuKing smiled slightly. Chapter 309. Chapter 309. 9th Layer of Core Formation. Chapter 309. Chapter 309. 9th Layer of Core Formation. What? Jiang Fan's expression shook with excitement as he said, "Please, Senior, guide me." The enemies he encountered were growing in number and strength. He desperately needed to enhance his physique to gain another life-saving advantage. SuKing, being a friend of Ling Jinghu at the same level, might possess such resources. SuKing said, Zhou Kitten, the Supreme Elder of the Myriad Sword Sect, possesses a bottle of poison dragon essence. She obtained it many years ago when she stumbled upon an ancient cave during an outer domain expedition. This essence comes from a poison dragon demon emperor of the nascent soul realm. Although its effect is not as profound as the demon emperor essence in the hands of the spirit beast sect master, it is still a divine object for body refinement. Even the giant sect master has sought it for years without success. The demon emperor essence in Gong Kei's hands was from the top-grade demon emperor, Howling Moon Sky Wolf, who was nearing the divinity transformation realm at his peak. This poison dragon demon emperor was naturally far inferior to Howling Moon Sky Wolf. Therefore, its bone marrow effect was equally inferior. But that was relative. Considering how terrifying a demon emperor was, the 9 sect supreme elders had the most say in it. They were forced to treat it as a formidable enemy. It was imaginable how precious a bottle of demon emperor's bone marrow was. Jiang Fan's eyes sparkled with excitement, but he soon calmed down and smiled bitterly. How could a junior like me obtain what even the giant sect master couldn't? SuKing laughed heartily. Just ask boldly. I will give you a heads up in advance. Ling Jinghu beside them was stunned. SuKing was willing to owe Zhou Kitten, the Supreme Elder, a massive favor for Jiang Fan. She didn't think that such a precious poison dragon essence could be given away just by SuKing's word. It surely required a huge favor in return. She quickly understood that SuKing wanted to repay Jiang Fan for the healing grace in another way, seeing that he couldn't grasp the sword control technique. However, this favor was quite significant. Jiang Fan also realized it. Such a peerless treasure couldn't be acquired just by a greeting. After a brief thought, he said, Senior, what kind of item does Senior Zhou Kitten fancy? It wouldn't be appropriate for a junior like me to go empty-handed. SuKing laughed briefly. This guy still thought he could impress a Supreme Elder, not hiding the truth, he said. She has been collecting high-grade demon beast materials recently. However, she wouldn't even glance at materials below mid-stage core formation. Jiang Fan slightly nodded. He happened to have a silver-winged Thunderbird demon core at mid-stage core formation. It could barely suffice. However, exchanging it for poison dragon bone marrow was clearly far from enough. He felt disheartened. Just then, there was a sudden writhing beneath Jiang Fan's robe. The little Killin suddenly awakened and began squealing in Jiang Fan's mind. Something's wrong. There's a bad guy coming. Bad guy. Jiang Fan was slightly puzzled but immediately became alert. Whoosh! Suddenly, a rapid sound of something piercing through the air echoed without any warning. Already on alert, Jiang Fan instantly caught sight of a lightning-fast shadow in the corner of his eye, shooting towards a Desire's sect disciple. Without hesitation, he used his movement technique. With unparalleled speed, he slashed his sword, just as the sword chi was released. A figure in a green robe flickered forward. With a single hand, he grabbed the shadow. It turned out to be a black feather, as sharp as an iron arrow. The person who caught it was, of course, SuKing. With a single squeeze, he crushed the feather, looking at Jiang Fan in surprise, and said, Kid, you even excel in movement technique. He was closer to the Desire's sect disciple. Omicron Niel Latar Wenafov Armenian. He Nus. Omicron, but Jiang Fan almost acted faster than him. This surprised him greatly. Jiang Fan sheathed his sword in time, his eyes fixed on the feather's source, and said solemnly, Senior, now is not the time to discuss this. It seems we've been overtaken by demon beasts. These demon beasts were ones that even Jin Yunli fled from. The green-robed elder's strength was no greater than Jin Yunli's. How could he be so relaxed? SuKing gave a wry smile. His gaze focused on the direction from which the feather came. His eyes revealed a chill. If these demon beasts had blocked his way a few days ago, he would indeed be in danger. But his strength had now recovered to 50%. The beasts that could kill him were few in number, and they certainly didn't include the black ferocious bird in the sky. Just a mid-stage core formation beast king, and you dare chase me? SuKing snorted coldly. He joined his fingers to form a sword gesture, pointing it into the air. Whoosh! A stone beneath his feet instantly flew out. Its speed was unparalleled. The stone's friction with the air produced sparks and emitted an ear-piercing booming sound. The strength of this strike made Jiang Fan gasp. So this was the great success of the sword control technique, where everything could be used as a sword. The black ferocious bird was also shocked, hurriedly flapping its wings to dodge, but the strike was too fast. It couldn't evade. just as the stone was about to pierce its chest. A giant skeletal hand suddenly reached out from the monster bird's back. The palm wasn't big, but its 5 fingers were as long as ancient trees, sharp and exaggerated. They resembled giant spears multiplied by 10. The giant hand grabbed the stone. The terrifying heat on the stone produced black smoke as it rubbed against the bone claws, but it successfully blocked the stone. SuKing's expression changed slightly. Cold Bone, one of the 10 great war generals under the Demon Emperor. So, it was indeed you ambushing me. The Demon Emperor commanded numerous powerful demon beasts. Besides the renowned 4 great demon kings, the 10 great war generals were equally feared. Each was said to possess the strength of a 9-sect supreme elder. The skeletal beast in front of them was indeed Cold Bone, one of the 10 great war generals. SuKing had suspected it earlier, seeing the marks on those bodies. Now it was confirmed to be Cold Bone's doing. As he finished speaking, a bizarre demon beast, resembling a giant ape but entirely skeletal, slowly crawled from the bird's back. Its colossal bone claws, even larger than its body, were even more terrifying. Its head embedded with 2 blood pearl-like eyes stared down coldly at them. Ling Jinghu gasped, "A top-level beast king of the 9th layer of core formation." What? The disciples' faces changed drastically. Even Jiang Fan's heart pounded wildly. The 9th layer of core formation. No wonder Jin Yunli didn't dare to pick up the red-scaled evil flood dragon's tooth. The one ambushing him was such a terrifying existence at the level of a supreme elder. Cold Bone stared at SuKing with a serious expression. It was also shocked. How could SuKing's injuries recover so quickly, far beyond expectation? Back then, Sky-devouring Tiger was gravely harmed, hanging on by a thread. The young master had to cut open her wrist to use her Demon Emperor Essence blood to save Sky-devouring Tiger. According to Sky-devouring Tiger, SuKing's injuries weren't any lighter than his. It was a miracle he was alive now. But looking at SuKing, he showed no signs of severe injuries. It spoke in the demon race's language, ordering Black Hawk notify the other beast kings immediately. "I'll try to stall him." With that, it leaped down. Unfolding its giant bone claws, it attacked SuKing. SuKing scoffed, just in time. His chi force surged around him, and invisible sword chi emanated from within, piercing the air along with his sword heart. Boom! The clash between the two happened in an instant. Jiang Fan only saw 2 shadows converge and separate immediately. He couldn't see the battle process clearly at all. He was shocked. So this is a battle between the strong? Ordinary people aren't even qualified to watch. Chapter 310. Chapter 310 Copper Scale Black Centipede. Chapter 310. Chapter 310 Copper Scale Black Centipede. A few moments later, Ling Gu flew backward. Its hard body was struck with devastating sword marks. Several claws on its right hand were completely severed. Ling Gu was terrified. SuKing's restored strength far exceeded expectations, and it couldn't hold him off at all. Thinking of this, it decided to escape. Only when the Beast King's army arrived would there be a chance to keep him here. How could SuKing not see through its plan? Leaping up to chase after it, he instructed, "Elder Ling, quickly take them away from here. It may have reinforcements." Ling Jinghu's face changed drastically, not daring to delay, immediately calling to the disciples. "Quickly go." Jiang Fan jumped onto his cart, driving it frantically. They escaped for about an hour. They didn't encounter any demon beast attacks, and everyone sighed in relief. But Jiang Fan noticed. The black raptor that had left had somehow returned and was circling above them. It seemed to be indicating to the other demon beasts their current location. This made Jiang Fan's face change, and he said, "Elder Ling, let's split up, otherwise none of us will get away." Ling Jinghu looked up, and her face also changed drastically, immediately realizing that demon beasts were closing in on their position. If they stayed together, they would all be surrounded. Scattering, the Black Hawk could only track one person. She thought that even a war general like Ling Gu had joined the ambush against SuKing. How could the rest of the reinforcements be any weaker? By herself, she might not be able to protect the disciples present, thus gritting her teeth and reluctantly saying, "Scatter, head in different directions and don't stop. If alive, meet at Myriad Sword Sect." The disciples were extremely frightened. Bidding Ling Jinghu a reluctant farewell, they each chose a direction and fled. Jiang Fan also bid farewell to Ling Jinghu at a fork in the road ahead, saying, "Elder Ling, take care." Ling Jinghu replied, "You too." Then she looked up at the Black Hawk and shouted angrily, "I am the great elder of the Desire Sect. If you have the guts, come at me." It seemed the Black Hawk understood her words and indeed flew in her direction. Jiang Fan was deeply moved. Though the Desires sect was criticized, the character of the great elder commanded respect. Using her own body to carve out a path of survival for the younger generation. Clenching his teeth, he hurriedly drove away. Wait, no. One shadow guard. It was Su Yining who had returned, chasing after them with a sweaty brow, saying, "I'm coming with you," Jiang Fan said, "to die with me. Quickly split up, then both of us still have a chance," though Elder Ling had diverted the demon beast's attention. But who could guarantee there wouldn't be an ambush in other directions? If Jiang Fan's path encountered danger, it would be bad enough for him, and Su Yining would also be implicated. But Su Yining jumped onto the cart, biting her lip, and said, "I won't. I don't believe we're so unlucky as to meet demon beasts." Number 1 shadow guard had helped her so often, weighing heavily on her mind. She wanted to repay him, but had no opportunity. Now, with their lives hanging by a thread, she thought that in a critical moment, she could block the demon beasts for him, giving him a chance to escape. "You," Jiang Fan frowned deeply, but seeing the other disciples had all fled without a trace. He couldn't delay either and said irritably, "Hold on tight." He then sped down mountain paths. The roads were narrow and rough, making the horse struggle and move slowly. Su Yining said, "Let's abandon the cart and walk. The cart is slow and a big target." Jiang Fan hesitated. The cart held the purple sword and the ancient zither, however. The Desires sect members were gone, so he didn't worry about being discovered. He nodded, stopping the cart on a flat boulder ahead, turning back to get the items from the cart. But suddenly, in Jiang Fan's mind, the little Killin's urgent cry sounded. "Master, why are you stopping? The thing underground is catching up." "What?" Jiang Fan was shocked. There was still a demon beast following him. He focused and sensed the ground trembling lightly beneath his feet. And it was getting stronger, indicating it was approaching rapidly. His face changed slightly. Immediately, he smashed the cart's bottom panel, pulling out the purple sword and ancient zither hidden inside. Then he kicked the horse's rear. The pained horse pulled the broken cart and ran wildly. With Su Yining's surprised gasp, Jiang Fan grabbed her slender waist, saying, "Don't speak." Then he used a movement technique, carrying her up a large tree, quietly clinging to the trunk, motionless. Su Yining's face quickly turned a rosy red, her eyes revealing a captivating glimmer. At this moment, she was pressed tightly against Jiang Fan, pinned to the tree. They were almost face to face, breathing audibly. She could even feel the heat from Jiang Fan's chest and his strong, pounding heartbeat. It was her first time being so close to a man. Her face quickly became unnatural. She was about to push Jiang Fan away. Suddenly, the tree shook. To be precise, the entire forest was shaking. She glanced at the ground in surprise and saw something that made her pupils contract. Under the ground, something was moving quickly, cracking the surface. The creature was extremely sensitive to sound. It followed the sound of horse hooves rapidly. Soon the cracks reached the cart. The horse seemed to sense the danger, neighing in fear. But it was futile with a loud boom. The ground suddenly opened a large several feet gap. A giant centipede, tens of feet long and a few feet wide, emerged from underground. Neomicron Ugomicron, SZERO with its huge, pointed, tooth-filled mouth. It swallowed the entire cart in one bite. Su Yining's face went pale, screaming in terror. But just as she opened her mouth, a hand covered her red lips. Jiang Fan's face was serious, motioning for silence. Su Yining calmed down, nodding to show she was quiet. Only then did Jiang Fan release his hand. They held their breath, not daring to make a sound, watching the giant centipede burrow back underground. After a full quarter of an hour, the surroundings became quiet, the underground still. Su Yining cast a questioning glance at Jiang Fan, meaning, "Can we talk now?" Jiang Fan shook his head, using spiritual power to carve on the tree trunk. "This is a copper-scale black centipede. An adult has a mid-stage Jiden realm, very cunning. The empty cart might not have fooled it." "Mid-stage Jiden?" Su Yining clicked her tongue, not daring to breathe loudly. After an hour, the surroundings remained still, no sound. She mimicked Jiang Fan, carving, "It should be gone right." Jiang Fan also found it strange. Could he have been wrong? Out of caution, he didn't jump down. After thinking, he took out the damaged black sword. With a thought, he controlled the black sword to shoot far away. Whoosh! The black sword moved as fast as lightning, cutting through the air with an intense sword hum. In the silent forest. It was extremely abrupt. At the same time, what made Su Yining's face change was, the entire forest shook again. Chapter 311. Chapter 311. Game Chapter 311. Chapter 311. Game the ground 10 feet away from them suddenly exploded. The bronze-scaled black centipede, which seemed to have left, shot out like a shadow and fiercely bit the speeding black sword. Crack! A crisp sound echoed, and the black sword, a mid-grade magic artifact, was bitten into 2 pieces by its sharp mandibles. It seemed to realize it had been tricked. The bronze-scaled black centipede viciously raised its long body, its fierce eyes scanning the surroundings. The pair of antennae on its head were continuously shaking, probing the surrounding sounds. Yining covered her mouth, preventing herself from letting out a terrified scream. No one shadow guard had been right after all. This bronze-scaled black centipede was indeed ambushing them, and it had patiently laid in wait for a full hour. If it weren't for no one shadow guard's vigilance, the 2 of them would have fallen for it. The bronze-scaled black centipede, finding no movements after a long while, angrily twisted its massive body away. The rumbling sound gradually faded and eventually disappeared. It looked like it had truly left. With her lips slightly parted, Yining was just about to speak when Jiang Fan stopped her again. He wrote, "It is pretending to lure us out." "What?" Yining's eyes widened as she looked around, her scalp tingling with fear. From the dark woods in the distance, a pair of antennae were poking out and shaking rapidly. She couldn't help but take a deep breath. This beast king was unbelievably cunning. If she were facing it alone, she wouldn't be able to escape its chase no matter how many lives she had. The 2 of them held their breath and concentrated. Both sides were testing each other's patience. Obviously, it was the bronze-scaled black centipede that lost patience first, because its task was to assist Ling Gu in ambushing SuKing, not to waste time dealing with unknown humans here. So it patiently waited for an hour, but with no sign of prey. It crawled out in a violent rage. Its long tail fiercely struck the tree trunks along the way. Ancient trees as thick as a man's body were instantly shattered by its force. Towering ancient trees fell one by one with a series of crashes. What made Jiang Fan's face darken even more? One of the large trees, neither too far nor too close, came crashing towards their tree. Crash, a loud noise echoed as Jiang Fan's tree was violently jolted. The 2 couldn't keep their footing. They both fell from the tree. Even though Jiang Fan quickly used his movement technique, making their landing as quiet as possible. The antennae on the bronze-scaled black centipede's head suddenly shook violently, picking up the unusual sound of the prey landing. It turned around, letting out an excited screeching sound. It meant, "I found you." Its blood-red eyes locked onto Jiang Fan and Yining. The latter showed fear on her face, but bravely pulled out her sword. Her voice trembled as she spoke the toughest words with the most trembling tone. "No one shadow guard, you go first?" "Huh." Jiang Fan was slightly stunned, glancing at Yining in surprise. In a critical moment, Yining actually chose to sacrifice herself to protect others. Was this still the proud and willful Yining he knew? If she had been this reasonable earlier, things might have turned out differently between them. However, letting Yining stay behind to cover the retreat while he escaped was not something Jiang Fan could do. "You go first." Jiang Fan slowly drew his sorrow frost sword. His gaze was serious but not fearful. Yining stubbornly said, "I told you to go, don't argue. That way I won't owe you any more." Looking at the rapidly approaching gigantic centipede, she became more frightened and couldn't even hold her sword steadily. Her voice had a hint of sobbing. Jiang Fan was speechless. Scared to this extent, how could you be expected to cover the retreat? You wouldn't last a moment against the bronze-scaled black centipede's tail swipe. He was about to speak, but was stopped by Yining's words, which made his body slightly tremble. "If you survive, go back to the Green Cloud Sect and tell my master of my death. And also, tell Jiang Fan I'm sorry." With that, she pushed Jiang Fan away and said, "Go quickly, don't look back." She gritted her teeth, holding her 3-foot green peak tightly with both hands, and charged at the bronze-scaled black centipede. The bronze-scaled black centipede showed a look of contempt. Its massive tail, leaving a series of afterimages, harshly swung at Yining, who was rushing to her death. Yining felt an evil wind hitting her face, and her vision was filled with the tail covered in dense, tiny claws. Her heart filled with fear and despair, along with a hint of melancholy. Was she really going to die like this? There were still so many regrets. Unconsciously, Jiang Fan's figure appeared in her mind. A touch of bitterness welled up in her heart. Unfortunately, everything was over. With a desperate smile, she swung her sword towards the enormous tail to end her own life. Whoosh! At the critical moment, her waist tightened. Next, she felt the world spinning, and when she opened her eyes, she found herself back in no one shadow guard's arms. He was holding her, leaping from tree to tree. Why didn't you listen?" Yining cried out in panic. If only no one shadow guard had been alone with his excellent movement technique, there might have been hope to escape. But taking her along, they definitely couldn't escape. Jiang Fan said with a focused gaze, "Don't speak, hold this tight." He stuffed one end of the heavenly mountain silk into Yining's palm. At this moment, the bronze-scaled black centipede, missing its target with a tail swipe, flew into a rage out of shame. 2 tiny humans had cost it a full hour of hunting. For this was already humiliating enough. Rescuing someone in the middle of its attacks, that was a slap in its face. Rumble, it angrily chased after them. Its massive body did not hinder its speed and agility at all. It twisted rapidly on the ground. Nye Omicron Cyrillic letter 475 letter 1E50. SZERO in just a few breaths, it caught up with Jiang Fan and the others. Jiang Fan's face changed. He stepped on a branch, using it to change direction, darting to the left. The bronze-scaled black centipede was overly agile. Its body was in midair, yet it could twist its upper body to change the direction of its attack. Bam! It crashed into the large tree Jiang Fan used for leverage, shattering it to pieces. Large chunks of wood flew towards the 2 of them. Jiang Fan quickly shielded Yining in front of him, using his back to block all the wood. Pop, pop, pop! Amidst dense explosions, Jiang Fan's back was instantly drenched in blood. Even though he was wearing top-grade armor that could withstand a mid-stage Jiden strike. Otherwise, he wouldn't just be having his flesh torn through the armor by the wood, he'd be a sieved mess. Jiang Fan groaned in pain but gritted his teeth and continued using his movement technique to leap systematically through the forest. Yining noticed the stickiness on Jiang Fan's back, and when she touched it, her hand was covered in blood. She cried out in alarm, "You're hurt!" Jiang Fan endured the pain and said, "It's nothing, just hold onto the silk tightly. Our survival depends on it." Faced with a mid-stage Jiden Beast King head-on, he had no chance of winning, unless he used the nascent Soul Strike Jade talisman. But that was a last resort. Now he wanted to test the power of the heavenly mountain silk. Yining, looking at no one shadow guard who was so close to her, felt an inexplicable sense of gratitude. She didn't understand. Why was no one shadow guard so good to her, risking his life to protect her? Was it worth it? While she was lost in thought, Jiang Fan had leapt several times. The bronze-scaled black centipede was in hot pursuit. Several times it almost bit them. The situation was perilous. The bronze-scaled black centipede felt some humiliation, as 2 small humans at the Foundation establishment realm were, using an exceptionally powerful movement technique, making it chase them around like playing with wild monkeys. It got angry. 100 pairs of tiny claws moved simultaneously. The demon core within it released an enormous amount of demon power. In an instant, its crawling speed increased tenfold. Taking advantage of the moment when Jiang Fan had just leapt with no leverage for his feet, it suddenly darted forward. Jiang Fan turned his head. He only saw a shadow. The bronze-scaled black centipede had caught up, its gaping maw inches away. However, Jiang Fan did not panic. Instead, a hint of joy appeared on his face. He had been waiting for this opportunity. The bronze-scaled black centipede, catching a glimpse of Jiang Fan's eyes, felt a sudden jolt in its heart. Wait, something was off. Chapter 312. Chapter 312, Silkworm Silk establishes authority. Chapter 312. Chapter 312, Silkworm Silk establishes authority. It felt even more uneasy. Jiang Fan had already prepared. With a thought, the sorrow frost sword on his back decisively unsheathed and flew under his feet. He stepped on the flying sword and used its force to propel himself into the air. At this time, the copper-scale black centipede finally realized. There was an almost invisible transparent silk thread tightly stretched between 2 big trees ahead. Its pupils contracted violently. It tried to dodge it, but its huge body couldn't avoid it at all. And it was even more impossible to stop. To kill Jiang Fan in one hit, it had exerted its innate talent, increasing its speed tenfold. Under such immense inertia, it couldn't stop at all. No, it let out a sharp scream. The next moment, its entire body passed through the heavenly mountain silk. Then, using the heavenly mountain silk as the dividing line, the upper half of its body flew forward. The lower half of its body quickly fell to the ground. Bang, bang, 2 dull thuds were heard in succession. The 2 halves of the copper-scale black centipede's body successively smashed to the ground, each part writhing madly, toppling a swath of forest. The front half of its body let out a heart-wrenching scream of pain. echoing through the mountains and forests. Jiang Fan barely landed on a tree, only to have his spiritual power thrown into disarray by the incredibly piercing scream. His body trembled violently. He almost fell headfirst. Luckily, Yining, seeing the danger, thrust her sword into the tree, providing support for both of them. Thus, they managed to stabilize themselves. They looked down on the incessantly screaming copper scale black centipede from above. As time passed, the tail part of the copper scale black centipede had long since stopped moving. The upper half also gradually fell silent. Only a faint rise and fall could be seen in the abdomen of the copper scale black centipede. It was not far from death. It struggled to lift its head, looking in Jiang Fan's direction. Its blood-red eyes were filled with intense resentment. It had actually fallen into the trap of a mere human. It was truly unwilling. Its head slowly fell down, and the rise and fall of its abdomen gradually ceased. It looked as if it were dead beyond any doubt. Yining felt as if she were dreaming. A mid-stage Jidan demon beast killed. Jiang Fan flickered a few times, retrieving the heavenly mountain silk, and shook his head. How could it have been killed by me? It was its own carelessness that led to its death. If it had been a bit more vigilant, it would have been very hard to trap it. Of course. Pausing, Jiang Fan looked at the heavenly mountain silk in his hand, full of joy. The power of this heavenly mountain silk is also a major reason. Ordinary silk threads could never achieve such an effect. They would either be broken by the copper scale black centipede or unable to cut through its copper-colored scales. Only the heavenly mountain silk, sharp and tough, could do it. He liked this item more and more. Yining looked at Jiang Fan with admiration. It was not just admiration for Jiang Fan's adaptability, but also for his humility. No one shadow guard spoke lightly of it, but how many people could achieve it? Even given the heavenly mountain silk, who could set a trap without panicking in danger, who could narrowly avoid the copper scale black centipede's attacks time and time again, who could lure it into delivering a fatal blow at just the right moment. All these factors combined led to the successful killing of the copper scale black centipede. It was far from being as simple as the copper scale black centipede's carelessness. She gazed at no one shadow guard, somewhat distracted, and said, "You are truly humble. You somewhat resemble an old friend named Jiang Fan." In her impression, Jiang Fan was also always a modest gentleman. Never proud or arrogant, always humble and low-key. Why hadn't she seen his merits back then? Jiang Fan, feeling guilty, changed the subject. "We should leave quickly. This place is full of trouble." Yining snapped back to reality. The commotion caused by the copper scale black centipede here was comparable to an earthquake. If there were any other beast kings nearby, they would have surely noticed this place by now. Her expression grew serious, ready to leave, but she inadvertently glanced at the copper scale black centipede and said, "Don't want its materials." This was a mid-stage Jidan beast king. Even a random scale was valuable. Jiang Fan's eyes flashed and he said, "Of course I want them, but I want to make sure it's completely dead before taking anything." "What?" Yining was shocked, looking at the seemingly lifeless copper scale black centipede, and said, "It's still alive." Jiang Fan stroked his chin. "Given its cunning nature, I find it hard to believe it would die so obediently." "Let's test it out and see." With that said, he took out the ancient zither and played Tiger and Dragon Roar from a distance. The sound waves struck the body of the copper scale black centipede like a sword. Its hard scales bore shallow white marks from the impact. It did not cause much damage, but the weak eyes were shattered on the spot. The pretending to be dead copper scale black centipede, in pain, raised its head, letting out a cry of anger. Using the last bit of its strength, it dragged its remaining body toward Jiang Fan. It howled in fury as it crawled. But this last bit of strength was meant for a final blow against Jiang Fan, and it wasn't enough to sustain it for long. After a short while, it crawled slower and slower. Finally, it lay on the ground motionless. A weak hiss sounded from its mouth. In its mind, it uttered the final curse of its life. "You bastard, you're not human." Even among the demon beasts, the highly vigilant demon rabbit was not as difficult to deal with as this little human. With resentment, it completely died. Yining was startled by the copper scale black centipede's dying counterattack. But hearing its frantic howling, she looked at Jiang Fan with a strange expression, muttering, "It seems to be cursing you." Even though she couldn't understand the demon race's language, certain emotions were universally understood among living beings. Jiang Fan rubbed his nose. It wasn't just cursing him. It seemed to be cursing quite obscenely. "Yeah, Omicron new letter 1E5 letter 1D11. Oh, Inus. He played another tune, causing the flesh and blood of the copper scale black centipede to explode. He confirmed that the copper scale black centipede was truly dead and didn't play any more tricks. Only then did he descend with Yining. Circling the copper scale black centipede, Jiang Fan identified the location of the inner core, pried open the iron-hard scales, and exposed the flesh inside. Then he stabbed it with a sword, extracting the fist-sized inner core. The inner core was filled with black liquid, clearly highly toxic. Jiang Fan couldn't help but shudder. It's a good thing I didn't approach it just now. It seemed that the copper scale black centipede intended to poison Jiang Fan to death before it died. A mid-stage Jidan poison attribute inner core. I wonder if Supreme Elder Joe Kitten would be interested. Though trading it for that vial of poison dragon bone marrow was a wild fantasy. But it's better than going empty-handed, right? At this time, Yining was also eyeing the copper scale black centipede's corpse with interest. It was her first time seeing a mid-stage Jidan demon beast's body. Every part of it was valuable. Take whatever you fancy, Jiang Fan reminded her. Yining quickly waved her hands. No, these are your spoils. I can't take them. Jiang Fan said, the inner core is enough for me. I can't carry anything else. Take as much as you can. Upon hearing this, Yining felt both delighted and embarrassed. She picked and chose from the copper scale black centipede, prying off 10 scales and cutting off the pair of antennae from its head. Finally, she cut a piece of the most refined spiritual meat from its back. She reluctantly stopped. Just these items made her burdened with packages. Looking at the nearly intact copper scale black centipede's body, Yining said with regret, it's such a waste, so many good things that we can't take. As soon as she finished speaking, a cold voice without any warning echoed in the dark forest. If you can't bear to leave them, then stay. Who? Jiang Fan felt his hair stand on end. Something was nearby, yet he hadn't noticed. And it sounded like a human language, but the deep and thick voice was not something a human could produce. He stared tightly at the source of the voice. In a patch of shadow, a terrifying creature with skeletal structure and clawed hands stepping on the ground slowly emerged. Jiang Fan's hair stood on end. His pupils vibrated intensely. The 9th layer of core formation Beast King, Lengu. Chapter 313. Chapter 313, The Heavenly Might of the Infinite Ring, Chapter 313. Chapter 313, The Heavenly Might of the Infinite Ring. Jiang Fan's throat moved with difficulty. Cold sweat poured down his body like a waterfall. This Beast King, wasn't it being hunted down by SuKing? Why did it come back? Moreover, he had taken away the inner core of its subordinate right in front of it. Yining was even more rigid, her eyes filled with fear without a trace of vacancy left. They never dreamed of encountering the strongest existence among these Beast Kings. This was akin to a terrifying existence level comparable to a Supreme Elder. In the demon-beast realm, it was also ranked among the top 15 great demons. Encountering it, where was there even a shred of hope for survival? Jiang Fan's cold sweat flowed profusely. Despite having a nascent soul strike jade token, he dared not act rashly. He had seen Lengu in action. It was as fast as a shadow, imperceptible to the naked eye. If he dared to move, the jade token would likely be destroyed before he could take it out, and he would be beheaded. Lengu walked with his hands behind his back. He stepped on the ground, causing thunderous sounds, slowly approaching them. He spoke in an eerily sinister human voice. A small foundation establishment realm, yet capable of killing my mid-core formation Beast King. No one would believe it if I said it. What kind of magical treasure did you use? Take it out and I might consider sparing your life. He glanced at the two halves of the copper scale black centipede's corpse, realizing something. A trace of greed flashed in his eyes. The scales of the copper scale black centipede were known for their hardness. Even its claws could hardly break them. The young man before him could sever the copper scale black centipede at the waist. It was evident he had some extremely sharp object. If it was a natural magical treasure, that would be perfect. Being a demon beast, he could also use it. Jiang Fan regained a trace of calm. No matter what the creature, once its spiritual wisdom reached a certain level, it would show its greedy nature. As long as it didn't kill him immediately, he still had a chance to fight back. Fine, I'll give you the thing, but don't come closer or I would rather destroy it, Jiang Fan shouted. Lengu's eyes narrowed. He disdained bargaining with Jiang Fan, but since the nature of the magical treasure was unknown, whether it could indeed be destroyed was also uncertain. So his step forward slowly retracted. Across 100 zhang distance, they conversed through the air. Take it out and let me see. To a beast king of his level, what difference did 10 Zhang or 100 Zhang make? If he decided to kill, the humans before him would surely die. Jiang Fan took a breath. I'll give it to you. He reached into his bosom, feeling for the jade box containing the nascent soul jade token, and opened it deftly. Just as he was about to take it out, Ling Gu sharply sensed an extremely dangerous aura. His expression changed, and in fury he shouted, "You're seeking death," no matter what that thing was. Anything that made his ninth layer core formation self feel immense danger was certainly extremely perilous. He couldn't let him take it out. Swish! He left an afterimage where he stood. His massive and terrifying body appeared in front of Jiang Fan in an instant. Jiang Fan's pupils contracted sharply. Before he could grasp the jade token, Ling Gu decisively struck Jiang Fan's chest with a claw. It's over. Jiang Fan's vision darkened. Only this thought occupied his mind. Before absolute power, any struggle was in vain. A sharp pain quickly followed. That was the pain of claws piercing through the armor and reaching the flesh. This bit of pain made Jiang Fan suddenly excited, his blank brain stimulated and spinning rapidly. Suddenly, Jiang Fan's vision brightened, at the moment when the claws were about to penetrate the armor and pierce through it. Jiang Fan's chest puffed out, and he shouted, "Open!" He wore a pink Buddha jade pendant on his chest. It was given to him by Yue Mingzhu at the bottom of the cliff, telling him not to use it unless at a life-and-death moment. Omicron knew letter 1E5 letter 1D11. He Noose, though he didn't know how useful it was, or whether it could block a shot from the 9th layer of core formation. But at this moment he could only try. He pushed the pendant with his chest, and as the spiritual power burst forth, it shattered instantly. A pink mist gushed out at once, forming a spherical shield around Jiang Fan. With a bang, the spherical shield instantly bounced Ling Gu away. The claw that had pierced into Jiang Fan's body was forcibly broken. Ling Gu let out a painful howl, staring in shock at the pink shield around Jiang Fan. A 9th layer core formation defensive pendant. Who are you? A person who could own such a precious defensive pendant could not be a simple human. Jiang Fan was stunned. The pendant given by Yue Mingzhu was of such high grade. With this shield, could Ling Gu do nothing to him? He decisively took out the nascent soul jade token, holding it in his hand, coldly shouting, "Get lost, or taste its power." SSS. Ling Gu drew in a sharp breath, his tiny blood-colored eyes trembling as if an earthquake had hit. A nascent soul strike jade token? Who are you? A 9th layer core formation defensive charm was one thing, but even having a nascent soul strike jade token. This terrifying token, even a real nascent soul realm expert, would not dare to face it head-on. However, how could he be willing to leave? The young human before him was likely an extremely important person. If he could be brought back to the young master, he might make amends. SuKing failed to kill him due to reinforcements arriving, but SuKing also couldn't be retained. If he couldn't bring back SuKing's head, it would be his head that would be required. The young human before him was his hope of survival, but he carried precious treasures. He could not defeat him for the moment. Suddenly, his peripheral vision caught Yining. A cruel smile appeared on his lips, and he laughed coldly. "You can protect yourself. But can you protect your companion?" Swish. He disappeared again, leaving an afterimage. This time he charged towards Yining. "No!" Jiang Fan roared, not daring to activate the nascent soul jade token. Because the attack range of this jade token was vast, it would kill Yining as well. In despair, Jiang Fan suddenly touched the infinite ring on his finger. A thought crossed his mind, and he shouted loudly, "Yining, get out of the way!" He then raised his hand suddenly, pointing at the spot between Yining and the afterimage. Although he could not capture Ling Gu's figure, the gravity range of the infinite ring was large enough. Yining reacted, quickly retreating. As she barely stepped back a few paces, an invisible mighty force appeared out of nowhere. It pressed downward abruptly. The sword in Yining's hand was caught within the range. It was instantly crushed into powder on the spot. Then, a thunderous roar erupted. It was as if the heavens and earth had crumbled. The ground in front of him was pressed into a huge pit tens of feet deep by the terrifying power. The unparalleled strength caused an earthquake. The surrounding ground shook continuously, throwing Yining to the ground on the spot. Thick cracks, as wide as a person's body, radiated outward from the giant pit, stretching for a mile. The aftershocks of the earthquake swept across hundreds of miles around. Birds and beasts fled in panic. A towering cloud of dust surged into the sky like a yellow dragon. It took dozens of breaths before. The earthquake subsided. The thick dust hung in the air for a long time. Through the dust, Yining looked at the terrifying pit in front of her, gasping sharply. In the pit lay Ling Gu, whose whole body was covered with cracks like a shattered porcelain. His 10 sharp claws had broken inch by inch. His limbs were densely covered with fissures. His torso was also full of shocking cracks, as if it would shatter upon a touch. At this moment, he was on his last breath, seemingly unable to move even a bit. Only his eyes could still move. His blood-red eyes trembling, he asked in horror, What is that thing? Chapter 314. Chapter 314. Who says I can't use the sword control technique? Chapter 314. Chapter 314. Who says I can't use the sword control technique? Jiang Fan was also stunned. Previously, he had only unintentionally used it on the clouds in the sky. He hadn't realized how powerful the gravity suppression of the infinite ring was. Only now did he understand its terror, and this was after wasting most of its energy. If the infinite ring were at its peak, Ling Gu wouldn't even have a trace left. Being able to severely wound a 9th-layer core formation Beast King was enough to delight Jiang Fan. He employed his movement technique, decisively flying over. The Sorrow Frost Sword instantly activated, slashing at the immobilized Ling Gu. Strike when it's down, don't give it a chance to breathe. Chirp, just then. The black raptor, attracted by the commotion, noticed the scene below and swooped down decisively. Jiang Fan's expression changed. This black raptor was also a mid-stage core formation being. Its claws were no less powerful than the silver-winged thunderbirds. He quickly sidestepped out of the way. Boom, the powerful gust nearly blew Jiang Fan away. Thankfully, he avoided it. But what changed his expression was Ling Gu in the deep pit had disappeared. Looking up, he saw the black raptor clutching Ling Gu in its talons, rescuing it. Ling Gu, barely surviving, looked down at the gradually shrinking Jiang Fan on the ground, both shocked and angry, yelling, "You human brat, don't think you'll leave here alive. Black Hawk, don't worry about my injuries. Follow this human brat and bring the other beast kings here. This kid must die. Otherwise, future troubles will be endless." Thinking of the nascent soul one-strike jade token in Jiang Fan's hand, it felt a shudder of fear. It couldn't imagine if during a crucial moment in the war between humans and demons, this boy appeared with the nascent soul jade token, what the consequences would be. In its view, this boy needed to be eradicated more than SuKing. Even if he escaped today by luck, it would mobilize the demon race's power in the future to continuously hunt him down. The hidden danger couldn't be allowed. Jiang Fan was also filled with killing intent. If Ling Gu escaped, the fact that he possessed the nascent soul jade token would no longer be hidden. At that time, whether the demon race would hunt him could be set aside for now. The giant sect would not let him go first. "Still want to kill me? Do you think you can escape?" Jiang Fan coldly snorted. Spiritual power surged crazily within him, forming a sword shape. The Sorrow Frost sword on his back trembled continuously, as if it were eager with excitement. Ling Gu sneered, "Even SuKing couldn't kill me. Do you, a mere human brat, think you can take my life from afar?" The sky had always been forbidden for humans. No matter how powerful you were powerless in the face of the sky. Only SuKing's sword control technique could harm the sky's demon beasts, but his sword control technique was unique to him alone. No one else could learn it, let alone a mere human brat here. However, in the next moment, Ling Gu's expression froze. Jiang Fan took out a long sword wrapped in cloth from behind him. He shook the sword hilt. The world-shattering purple brilliance instantly shredded the cloth, revealing a purple longsword exuding immense spiritual pressure. Even from such a distance, Ling Gu felt the chill emanating from the purple sword. A sense of dread swept through its entire body. Could it be a spiritual artifact? Ling Gu gasped. It felt an intense unease. If not for being in the air, unafraid of the sword, it would have retreated to maintain distance long ago. But in the next moment, a horrifying scene unfolded before Ling Gu. Jiang Fan raised his hand and tossed the purple sword into the air. Then he mimed a sword gesture with 2 fingers pointing at Ling Gu from a distance. The purple sword transformed into a purple beam and shot towards them. "Sword control technique!" Ling Gu let out a piercing scream of terror. In the next moment, both the black raptor and Ling Gu were pierced by the purple sword. Ling Gu hoped to rely on its invincible body to withstand the sword, but it despairingly found that its body was like paper before the purple sword. "Yeah, Omicron U letter 1E5 Omicron. Omicron, it was directly cut open. Worse still, The black raptor's head was penetrated. Its massive body powerlessly fell, dragging Ling Gu down, smashing brutally into the ground. Boom, blood and feathers splattered everywhere. The already dying Ling Gu was smashed into pieces, with only its head's blood-red eyes weakly rolling. Its mouth moved, pleading for mercy. "Spare me!" Poof, a purple light descended from the sky, piercing through its head, completely shattering it. It was Jiang Fan controlling the purple sword, delivering the final blow to Ling Gu. Jiang Fan retrieved the purple sword and coldly stared at Ling Gu's body. How could he be so foolish as to show mercy and let it live? After confirming Ling Gu's death, Jiang Fan approached its body, a trace of excitement in his eyes. This was a 9th layer core formation demon beast. Its beast core must be incredibly valuable, right? After searching for a while, Jiang Fan found a white demon core the size of an eyeball in its head. Compared to other demon cores, this one was significantly smaller, but the energy contained within it was 100 times more than other demonic beasts. Holding it in his palm, he felt the overwhelming, suffocating power surging within. Jiang Fan secretly rejoiced. "Luckily, I had the infinite ring, or else I would have been doomed today." Jiang Fan vividly remembered Ling Gu's immense strength. That elderly man in a green robe, proficient in swordsmanship, couldn't kill it despite chasing it. He could kill Ling Gu only because of the infinite ring's power. Jiang Fan now had time to examine the infinite ring, finding it had turned pure white, losing all its green color, indicating it had exhausted all its power. "I have to find a way to restore some energy," Jiang Fan thought to himself. Witnessing the infinite ring's formidable power, he was overjoyed. He regarded it as his second most important life-saving asset, right after the nascent soul jade token. After storing away Ling Gu's beast core, Jiang Fan also took the Black Hawk's inner core, saying, "We must leave quickly. This place isn't safe." He grabbed Yining, employing his movement technique, swiftly moving through the mountain forest. Yining was still overwhelmed by the previous shock. The No One Shadow Guard, single-handedly killing a 9th layer core formation Beast King. When did he become so terrifyingly powerful? Even Jiang Fan couldn't be this formidable, could he? When she came to her senses, they had already traveled a great distance. The rest of the journey was much smoother. They no longer encountered any Beast Kings. Several days later, the two, travel-worn, arrived at the city at the foot of the Myriad Sword Sect Mountain, Myriad Sword City. Unlike other cities, Myriad Sword City was under lockdown today. Entry required an identity jade, and non-residents of Myriad Sword City and disciples from the 9th Sect were not allowed entry. This was related to the upcoming Sword Forest. Given the important event ahead, the Myriad Sword Sect was concerned about any ill-intentioned people causing harm to the 9 Sect disciples. "It's our turn." Yining, queuing, took out her identity token without hesitation when it was her turn. After verification, she fixed her gaze on Jiang Fan. Her beautiful eyes were filled with intense curiosity. The true identity of the No One Shadow Guard was about to be revealed. Jiang Fan felt a headache. He didn't expect entry into Myriad Sword City to require an identity token, and it was especially inconvenient that Yining was right by his side. If she discovered that the No One Shadow Guard was Jiang Fan, who knew if she would have an emotional breakdown? As he hesitated, a cold and somewhat indifferent voice sounded from behind. "What's your name?" Jiang Fan turned around. He found a young girl in a bright red dress standing behind him, having appeared out of nowhere. Her skin was as white as snow, with golden wavy hair and deep-set eyes embedded with blue sapphire-like pupils. Her fiery figure was particularly noticeable. She was a stunningly beautiful girl with an exotic allure and a fiery figure. She approached Jiang Fan and sniffed him. This puzzled Jiang Fan. Even more bewildering, after sniffing him, the blood-skirt girl's expression turned cold. Her gaze bore into him with inexplicable animosity. Chapter 315. Chapter 315. An accidental encounter with the Demon Emperor's daughter. Chapter 315. Chapter 315. An accidental encounter with the Demon Emperor's daughter. "What's your name?" The red-dressed girl wasn't anyone else. It was the daughter of the Demon Emperor who had arrived at Myriad Sword Sect, ready to kill everyone. Originally, she was queuing up obediently. Then she suddenly caught the scent of her subordinates' demon core. Among them, there was even Ling Gu's. This made her both astonished and furious. Her father's war general had actually fallen. What made her release hostility uncontrollably was that the demon core was with the masked person right in front of her. Moreover, It wasn't just Ling Gu's demon core on him. There was also the demon core of the copper scale black centipede, black hawk, and silver-winged thunderbird. This scoundrel had 4 demon cores of the demon race's beast kings, although it was unlikely that he was the one who killed them. But it still made her unable to tolerate it. That led to the scene just now. Jiang Fan replied irritably, "Guess." This girl probably wasn't right in her head, was she? Developing hostility towards him for no reason and wanting to know his name. It'd be a wonder if he said it. The red-dressed girl bit her silver teeth, saying hatefully, "You better pray you don't join the Sword Forest." If they met in the Sword Forest, she would be the first to take this guy out. As she spoke, she pushed past Jiang Fan, storming up to the martial artist inspecting people, and threw an identity token over. Jiang Fan's face subtly changed as he looked. It was actually a True Thunder Sect identity token. He glanced at Yining, revealing a questioning look. Was there such a girl in the True Thunder Sect's group? Why, no impression at all. Yining also realized something was off and responded to Jiang Fan's doubt by shaking her head. She had been with the True Thunder Sect's group for a few days. There was absolutely no such girl among them. Jiang Fan frowned. Was this girl impersonating a True Thunder Sect disciple, or had she just arrived? Without evidence, it wasn't appropriate for Jiang Fan to expose her. Besides, he didn't want to get involved in True Thunder Sect's matters. His eyes flashed. Taking advantage of Yining's attention being drawn to the red-dressed girl, he discreetly pulled out his identity token, handing it to another examining martial artist. The other person simply registered it and returned the token to Jiang Fan. When Yining noticed, Jiang Fan had already put the token away, saying, "Let's go in. See if we can meet up with Elder Ling and the others." Yining pouted, stomping her foot lightly. "So stingy, you wouldn't even let me see the token." She had barely missed the chance to glimpse No One Shadow Guard's true identity, but had missed it due to the red-dressed girl's interruption. The two entered the city. Immediately, not far from the city gate, they saw Ling Jinghu and Jai Ryu's group at a tea stall. Ling Jinghu's arm was injured, wrapped in bandages and in a sling, indicating a broken bone. Only 4 of the 5 disciples remained. It wasn't hard to predict the fate of the missing disciple. Most likely, like Jiang Fan, they were unlucky enough to be discovered and chased by a demon beast. However, Jiang Fan had strong skills and endless methods, preserving his life. The other person wasn't as fortunate. "Oh, it's Jiang, junior sister Su, and the others." Jai Ryu, sharp-eyed, immediately spotted Jiang Fan. She almost blurted out Jiang Fan's identity but corrected herself in time. Ling Jinghu, upon hearing, quickly looked over. Seeing Jiang Fan and Yining unharmed, her weary face showed deep relief. She rushed forward, saying with relief, "It's good you're all right, it's good you're all right. I thought you encountered danger too. Now I can finally give the sect master an account." After all, she had been entrusted by the sect master to escort this savior to the Myriad Sword Sect. If he came to any harm, she would have been in big trouble. Jiang Fan admired this elder who risked her life to divert the Beast King and provide a way out for the disciples. Seeing her arm's injury without a word, he took out a revitalizing pill. "Elder Ling, thank you for escorting us all the way. Take this healing pill as soon as possible." Ling Jinghu received it, surprised. For a moment, she didn't recognize this green pill. However, Jai Ryu gasped, clearly recognizing that it was the revitalizing pill that had sold for an astronomical price the other day. Such an expensive revitalizing pill, Jiang Fan just gave it away casually. Her eyes were full of ripples, showing deep admiration. Jiang Fan indeed wasn't stingy with those around him. Ling Jinghu, feeling ashamed, said, "You're too kind, young master. If we encountered real danger, I wouldn't have been able to protect you. You escaped on your own and luckily got out alive. Where are you going next? I have some friends at Myriad Sword Sect who can offer you food and shelter." She wanted to do more for Jiang Fan to make up to him somehow. But how could Jiang Fan dare stay with Ling Jinghu any longer? If his identity were exposed, who knew what she would do to him? "Elder Ling, I appreciate your kindness. I am planning to visit Supreme Elder Zhou Kidden at Myriad Sword Sect." Jiang Fan made an excuse. Upon hearing this, Ling Jinghu didn't try to keep them. This was Jiang Fan's great opportunity. How could she obstruct it? "All right, then we'll meet at Sword Forest tomorrow." She watched Jiang Fan and Yining leave. Only after they disappeared into the crowd did Ling Jinghu's expression gradually fade, and she instructed, "You may go about your business and meet at the inn tonight." The disciples complied and dispersed. During their escape, everyone's spiritual pills and talismans had been used up and needed to be replenished. Jai Ryu also prepared to leave, but Ling Jinghu called her back. Ryu, you stay? Jai Ryu felt uneasy, but she obediently stayed behind. When the other disciples had all left, Ling Jinghu gazed at Jai Ryu with meaningful eyes, her face stern. You have a lot of guts. Jai Ryu's heart sank, and she hastily bowed. Disciple doesn't know where I went wrong. Please correct me, great elder. HMPH? Ling Jinghu snorted, saying something that made Jai Ryu panic. You figured out long ago that this masked person is the Jiang Fan wanted by the sect master, right? Yet you concealed it. Thump, thump, Jai Ryu's face stiffened in panic. He is Jiang Fan. I really didn't realize it. Ling Jinghu said, stop pretending. That ancient zither on his back and the sword wrapped in cloth, you wouldn't fail to recognize them, right? Those are Jiang Fan's belongings. You saw them and didn't show a bit of surprise enough to prove you knew his identity long ago. Jai Ryu turned pale. Her lips trembled as she knelt. Disciple didn't intentionally hide it. Please forgive me, great elder. Unexpectedly. Ling Jinghu raised her hand to pull her up, not letting her kneel. Her face also changed from the sternness earlier, smiling faintly. If you're guilty, wouldn't I also be guilty for letting him go? Jai Ryu then realized. Indeed, if Ling Jinghu had really wanted to catch Jiang Fan and recognized his identity, why didn't she act just now? She asked uncertainly, Great Elder, what do you mean? Ling Jinghu smiled faintly. I mean, we know nothing. Let him off and we'll consider all favors owed to him repaid. Hearing the first part, Jai Ryu showed a happy expression. But at the latter part, she chuckled helplessly. Omicron U letter 1E5 Armenian, Enus. Letter 1D0 for Omicron pointing to the green pill in Ling Jinghu's hand, she teasingly said, This favor, Elder Ling, I'm afraid you'll have to keep repaying. Chapter 316. Chapter 316 Qin Ke scolding Ling Jinghu was taken aback, looking at the pill in his hand, and exclaimed, It's just a healing pill, how precious can it be? Jai Ryu showed a look of envy, staring at the green pill, and said, A healing pill worth 200,000 crystal stones, isn't that precious enough? How much? Ling Jinghu, who had just sat down, jumped up in shock and said, 200,000 crystal stones? Where is it that expensive? Wait, could this be the legendary revitalizing pill? An ancient pill that can heal all internal and external injuries within a 2-hour period. Jai Ryu nodded, eyes blazing, and said, What else? Ling Jinghu gasped. This kind of life-saving spirit pill, Jiang Fan actually gave him one. After a while, he solemnly packed it away, smiling bitterly. This favor is really hard to repay. At the foot of the Myriad Swords Sect mountain, Yining stopped and said, I'll wait for you here. No one shadow guard needed to meet the Supreme Elder of the Myriad Swords Sect. Her following would undoubtedly be a burden. Jiang Fan nodded and then stepped into the entrance. As soon as he entered, he almost thought he had walked into a market. He saw rows of carriages and dozens of disciples crowding at the entrance, waiting to hand in their tasks. Several disciples in charge of handling the tasks were overwhelmed. Jiang Fan's mouth twitched. So everyone was the same, relying on their elders to escort them, taking on some tasks to freeload a few merit points. As a result, there were so many people that the task exchange point of the Myriad Swords Sect was almost paralyzed. At this moment, Jiang Fan heard a familiar voice full of complaints. Why are you pushing? Can't you line up properly? Jiang Fan turned his head and couldn't help but be speechless. It was Qin Ke. She was complaining endlessly, organizing the chaotic scene with a very impatient expression. She had just returned to the Myriad Swords Sect and hadn't even warmed her seat. The entrance was already crowded with disciples handing in tasks, forcing her to come to the rescue. Who could be in a good mood in such a situation? The junior sister beside her cautiously said, Senior Sister Qin, don't talk like that. It's easy to offend people. Today's arrivals were all elite disciples from various sects, not the usual times. One word could offend many powerful disciples. If one of them held a grudge, it would cause trouble. But Qin Ke still acted as she pleased, saying, Who cares about them? They are all elite disciples, yet they have no sense of order. Jiang Fan touched his nose, thinking this person was reasonable when they were together. Why did she return to her sharp-tongued nature as soon as she left him? He patiently queued at the end. Soon after, it was his turn. Qin Ke, sweating profusely, finished recording the previous disciples' information. She was still complaining non-stop. Each and every one of them just wants to take advantage. And they call themselves elite disciples, just looking to freeload. The junior sister beside her was speechless, quickly glancing around at everyone's expressions and pleaded quietly. Senior sister, please say less. Chin K wasn't afraid of offending people, but she feared being implicated. Chin K snorted, "I said it, so what, are they going to scare me?" Next, Jiang Fan walked forward awkwardly, because he, too, was part of the freeloading crowd. Unexpectedly, after just a few days apart, he was scolded by Chin K. He placed his jade scroll and identity token, along with a contact letter, on the table. The letter was his task item for this mission. Chin K glanced at Jiang Fan, noticing he was wearing a mask, and frowned slightly. She picked up the letter and examined it carefully. At the same time, instructed the junior sister beside her, "Check his identity token and jade scroll carefully." With the Sword Forest event approaching, they couldn't afford to let any sneaky people in. Soon the junior sister confirmed, "The identity token and task jade scroll are fine." Chin K also finished examining the letter. "No problem here either." But she didn't pass him just yet. She crossed her arms, stared at Jiang Fan, and warned, "Sir, during this special period, it's better not to be so secretive, to avoid any misunderstandings." Jiang Fan touched his nose, scolded again. He nodded and said, "Thank you for your advice, senior sister." Seeing that Jiang Fan was relatively receptive and had a good attitude, Chin K instructed the junior sister, "Register him." The junior sister breathed a sigh of relief. Senior sister Chin was really not afraid of offending people, daring to educate someone so directly. If the other party were narrow-minded, they would hold a grudge. Fortunately, Chin K didn't continue to make things difficult and quickly opened the register, recording according to the identity token. She mumbled, "Jiang Fan." Chin K froze and suddenly let out a sharp scream. "What did you say his name was?" The junior sister trembled with fear, thinking she had written it wrong, and quickly looked at the identity token. After checking, she said with confusion, "Senior sister, I didn't write it wrong. Jiang Fan, a disciple of the Green Cloud Sect, Jiang Fan." Chin K looked incredulously at the masked person in front. When she saw the masked person's semi-smiling eyes, she couldn't help but shake all over. It was really Jiang Fan. She was overjoyed, jumping over from behind the desk, excitedly grabbing Jiang Fan's hands, and said incoherently, "Junior brother Jiang, why is it you? Why are you at the Myriad Sword Sect? I thought I'd never see you again." Jiang Fan said with a wry smile, "I didn't expect that in just a few days your temper would rise. Luckily, we were apart for a short time. If it was longer, it wouldn't be just scolding." Chin K's face flushed red instantly. Thinking about her recent words, she couldn't help but cover her face in embarrassment. She had actually scolded Jiang Fan? Oh my God, what a disgrace. She stammered, "I'm sorry, junior brother Jiang, I didn't know it was you. If I knew, I wouldn't dare even with 10 guts. The junior sister beside was stunned. In her impression, senior sister Chin never had such a girlish demeanor. Who was this masked man? He could make her so shy. Noticing the strange looks from around, she nudged softly, senior sister, let's handle the official business first." Chin K snapped out of it, her face turning even redder. She was indeed too out of character in front of everyone. She awkwardly returned to the desk, grabbed the register, and meticulously wrote Jiang Fan's name herself. After recording, she looked concerned. "Junior brother Jiang, the journey must have been hard." Jiang Fan said, "It's been fine. I came with the great elder of the Desires Sect to participate in the Sword Forest event, so there wasn't much danger under her protection." Chin K said ashamedly, "Junior brother Jiang is so powerful and still works hard, not forgetting to complete a task while joining the Sword Forest. I feel so ashamed in comparison." The junior sister beside, with 3 big question marks on her forehead, muttered, "Senior sister, didn't you just say this was freeloading, taking advantage? How come with junior brother Jiang, it's hard work and you're ashamed?" Chin K covered her mouth. The determination was as if she wanted to suffocate her on the spot. Her face flushed again. She awkwardly said, "Junior brother Jiang, don't listen to her nonsense." "I never said that. Absolutely not." At this moment, she was so embarrassed that her toes could dig out a 3-room apartment on the ground. Jiang Fan found it amusing, but didn't argue and said seriously, "Senior sister Chin, I want to ask about something." Handing in the task was secondary. The most important thing was to meet the Supreme Elder Zhou Kitten. Chapter 317. Chapter 317, Living Bodhisattva. Chin K nodded repeatedly. "Yes, junior brother, tell me." Jiang Fan said, "May I ask if your sect has a Supreme Elder named Zhou Kitten?" Chin K solemnly said, "Indeed we do. Why does junior brother Jiang ask this?" There really was such a person. It seemed that old man wasn't completely talking nonsense. Jiang Fan said, "If I wanted to visit this Supreme Elder, would it be very difficult?" Qin Ke was taken aback, then showed a troubled expression. "I'm afraid you won't be able to meet her. Even we rarely get the chance to see her." Jiang Fan wasn't too surprised. Even in the Green Cloud Sect, it was very difficult for Jiang Fan to see his own sect's Supreme Elders. To visit an outer sect Supreme Elder, how could a small disciple like him just pay a visit? Unless he was a Supreme Elder of some sect himself, it wouldn't be possible. After a brief thought, Jiang Fan said, "Then could you perhaps relay a message? Just say I wish to make a trade with her regarding demon beast materials." Qin Ke was still very troubled. Although during those days spent with Jiang Fan, she indeed received quite a few good items from him. But good was only relative to the disciples. For a Supreme Elder, they were not worth mentioning. However, this was the only way she could help Jiang Fan. Thus, she gritted her teeth and said, "All right, I will first take you to see my master. As a small disciple, I have no qualification to contact the Supreme Elder." In truth, Qin Ke had no confidence that she could persuade her master to help. After all, an elder helping an outer sect's disciple contact their own Supreme Elder. Just thinking about it seemed to lose face. All she could do was try her best. Qin Ke set aside her matters and took Jiang Fan up to Cloud Sword Peak. The two barely reached the peak. When they heard a woman's stern scolding, "You two still have the face to come back. The first-level mission at the giant sect front line, you didn't complete a single one, all failed. The other peak's disciples all succeeded." Jiang Fan's steps halted. He glanced towards the peak. He saw a woman in her 40s in a gauze dress, scolding two kneeling female disciples. One was crying like a weeping willow in the rain. The other bit her lip, her face full of grievance and unwillingness. "It seems we've come at a bad time," Jiang Fan said sideways, but he found Qin Ke shrinking her neck, stepping back down the stairs. At this scene, how could she dare to go up and touch the bad luck? Her master was usually very strict and would scold disciples who made mistakes harshly, especially when angry. However, the Cloud Sword Peak Master, with a move of her ear, detected the commotion and shouted, "Who?" Qin Ke's face turned pale. She had no choice but to steel herself, walk up the stairs, and reveal herself. She lowered her head and cautiously said, "Disciple Qin Ke greets Master." Seeing her, the Cloud Sword Peak Master became even angrier, shouting, "Sneaking around for what? No sense of discipline. Get over here, kneel properly." Qin Ke's face was full of bitterness. She knew she would run into bad luck. She obediently walked over and shrank her neck as she knelt in front of her two senior sisters. Before she could explain, the Cloud Sword Peak Master scolded her harshly. "Speak truthfully. Where have you been these days? Executing a third-level mission took you half a month. If you hadn't returned, I was about to report to the sect that you had died outside." With her drawing fire, the other two senior sisters finally got a breather. They secretly glanced at Qin Ke, showing schadenfreude. The two of them failing a first-level mission was understandable. After all, the front line was full of dangers, and the battle situation was unpredictable. Failing tasks was a common occurrence, but spending half a month on a third-level mission was truly absurd. If you said she wasn't slacking off, who would believe it? Qin Ke had quickly explained, "Master, this disciple has been diligently executing tasks these days. I haven't been lazy. After completing the Supreme Sect's mission to the Spirit Beast Sect, I immediately took on the mission from the Spirit Beast Sect to the Desire Sect, and along the way encountered many dangers, hence the delay." The Cloud Sword Peak Master's cold face showed a slight frown. "You can take tasks from the Spirit Beast Sect." The two senior sisters curled their lips, lying without a draft. With Qin Ke's strength at most, she could execute third-level tasks. And these low-tier tasks were not even enough for the Spirit Beast Sect's low-level disciples. How would they assign one to an outsider? Qin Ke nodded. "This disciple dares not lie." The Cloud Sword Peak Master showed doubt. "Was it Lu Xinghe who helped you?" This caused the two senior sisters to be stunned, then immediately disdainful. Almost forgot, Qin Ke had befriended a strong person at the 7th layer of Foundation establishment from their sect. The other party was capable of taking a second-level task from the Spirit Beast Sect. It was entirely possible for him to take Qin Ke along and share the credit with her. However, they were puzzled. Mentioning Lu Xinghe, Qin Ke's face showed disdain. "Him? It's good he didn't get me killed, let alone help me." Thinking about Lu Xinghe's arrogance, which caused them to fall into Black Lotus's ambush, she remained furious. This made the Cloud Sword Peak Master curious. "Then what task did you take at the Spirit Beast Sect?" Qin Ke felt slightly guilty. "It was a first-level task." She had been merely playing a minor role in that task. The task was completed solely because of Jiang Fan's efforts. Hence, she spoke with a lack of confidence. To her surprise, just as the words left her mouth, the Cloud Sword Peak Master's face turned icily cold, her shoulders shaking with anger. "You three, are you trying to anger me to death? Two of you who can complete first-level tasks all failed. The one who can't complete them lies through her teeth. You three have utterly shamed Cloud Sword Peak." She trembled with rage, her chest heaving violently. Pointing with a shaking finger at the two older female disciples, she said, "Chen Tingfang, Sun Huarong, both of you get back to your caves for meditation and reflection. As for you, Qin Ke, lazy and deceitful, your crime is unforgivable. Go to the reward and punishment hall yourself to receive 100 lashes." Ah, Qin Ke panicked. "Master, this disciple didn't lie. It was a junior brother from the outer sect who helped me complete the first-level task." But the more she explained, the angrier the Cloud Sword Peak Master became. A junior brother from the outer sect? Where would such a living bodhisattva come from to kindly help you complete a first-level task? And a junior brother at that, which sect has such a young genius who can help you complete a first-level task? Lying without a draft, are you trying to anger me to death? Get out. Go to the reward and punishment hall immediately and receive an additional 100 lashes. Her lungs were about to burst with anger. If she could have told a lie that was somewhat believable, she would have grudgingly accepted it. Such a transparently bad lie trying to deceive her. Did she take her for a fool? From below the stairs, Jiang Fan, who had intended to avoid the bad luck, could no longer hide. He had no choice but to remove his mask and reveal his true face. Then he forced himself to approach and said with cupped hands, "Jiang Fan, a disciple of Green Cloud Peak, greets Cloud Sword Peak Master." Suddenly having an outer sect disciple visit, the Cloud Sword Peak Master forcefully restrained her anger and tried to appear peaceful, to avoid giving the outer sect a bad impression of her temper. "You visit my peak, do you have some matter?" she asked as she looked Jiang Fan up and down, finding his name somewhat familiar. Jiang Fan straightforwardly said, "To answer the Peak Master, I am here to testify for Senior Sister Qin." "Testify?" The Cloud Sword Peak Master was puzzled. "Testify what?" With a bitter smile, Jiang Fan continued, "To be honest, Peak Master, I am the living bodhisattva you mentioned." Chapter 318. Chapter 318. Attitude changes greatly. Chapter 318. Chapter 318. Attitude changes greatly. The Cloud Sword Peak Master looked Jiang Fan up and down, scrutinizing his improbably youthful face. Suspiciously, she said, "You were able to accept a level 1 mission from the Spirit Beast Sect, and you could complete it with my disciple?" It's no wonder she doubted him. Of the 9 sects, such a formidable prodigy this young, besides Xia Caoj of the Supreme Sect, there was no second one. Jiang Fan nodded and said, "Precisely." The Cloud Sword Peak Master frowned, contemplating whether he was lying, until 2 kneeling female disciples whispered among themselves, "Jiang Fan of the Green Cloud Sect, the disciple with no spirit root. He can even accept a level 1 mission. This world is bizarre." Suddenly, the Cloud Sword Peak Master finally remembered why Jiang Fan's name sounded familiar. So it was him, Omicron U letter 1E5 Omicron. He, Anus, the Cloud Sword Peak Master laughed in anger. "You're quite bold, daring to come before me and falsely testify for my rebellious disciple. All right, you're not leaving either. I'll inform the Green Cloud Sect to come give an explanation and take you away." "This is simply outrageous," a junior disciple dared to mock her. He clearly didn't regard her in the slightest. Jiang Fan calmly said, "Cloud Sword Peak Master, why do you think I'm giving false testimony?" Seeing that Jiang Fan was still unyielding, the Cloud Sword Peak Master sneered. "What? You want to tell me you could accept a level 1 mission from the Spirit Beast Sect? Sect Master Gong isn't that blind to assign a level 1 mission to you," Jiang Fan said indifferently. "Sect Master Gong, of course, has sharp eyes. Unlike the Cloud Sword Peak Master." "Outrageous." The Cloud Sword Peak Master snorted. "How dare you mock this elder as blind? It seems I must teach you a lesson so you know some restraint." Swish, she raised a hand and pointed. Powerful spiritual power shot out from her fingertip, carrying an unstoppable force of sword chi. It shot towards Jiang Fan through the air. Qin Ke was startled and shouted, "Junior brother, flee!" The 2 senior sisters were also shocked. Their teacher was truly angry. She actually attacked a junior. He would surely be pierced through by the sword chi contained within that finger force. But Jiang Fan remained unafraid. He drew his sorrow frost sword with a clang. "Heaven and earth star fall?" With a decisive strike, a thunderous explosion roared. The forceful sword chi exploded outward. The casual sword chi finger strike from the Cloud Sword Peak Master was shattered instantly by the sword move of the high-grade magical artifact. The unexpected explosion even made the unprepared Cloud Sword Peak Master shudder. Her frosty face was immediately replaced by shock. The finger strike just now was just a casual attack, not particularly powerful. But it wasn't something a Foundation Establishment Realm disciple could block. At least her two beloved disciples kneeling on the ground couldn't possibly withstand it. This, well-known, Jiang Fan actually blocked it. Doesn't that mean he truly had the ability to execute a level 1 mission? Jiang Fan sheathed his sword and cupped his hands in respect, saying, "Disciple has offended. Please do not wrong Senior Sister Qin again, Cloud Sword Peak Master." The Cloud Sword Peak Master came back to her senses. Her expression changed repeatedly. The living Bodhisattva, the peerless genius, truly existed. She skeptically asked, "You didn't encounter any danger along the way, did you?" She still didn't fully believe in Jiang Fan's abilities. Completing a level 1 mission probably depended on luck. If he faced real danger, he might not have survived. Jiang Fan nodded. "Fortunately, our luck was good and we faced no major dangers." Compared to his encounter with Ling Gu, the previous dangers seemed trivial. The Cloud Sword Peak Master nodded slightly. Indeed, it was due to luck. She said, "Luck is also a part of strength. My disciple benefited from following you and earned 100 merit points, so this elder will not be ungrateful. I see you practice swordsmanship. I'll give you some pointers on your swordsmanship later." As a sect specializing in the sword Dao, myriad swords sect elders' swordsmanship attainments were naturally profound. Receiving their guidance was a great fortune money couldn't buy, but Qin Ke corrected, "Master, it isn't just 100 merit points. It's a full 400 merit points." "How much?" The Cloud Sword Peak Master's indifferent expression was immediately replaced by astonishment. 400. Are you mistaken? A regular level 1 mission rewards 100 merit points. How did Qin Ke get 400 merit points? Qin Ke explained, "Reporting to Master, junior brother Jiang executed the 1,000-mile Eagle escort mission, which had bonus rewards." Upon learning it was the 1,000-mile Eagle escort mission, the Cloud Sword Peak Master suddenly understood. She said in astonishment, "To think that Sect Master Gong entrusted you with this most important level 1 mission. This is truly unexpected, and even more unexpected is that your luck was so good you arrived safely." Such a mission theoretically required the leadership of an elder. Yet Gong Kei dared to let a junior disciple execute it alone. Who knows what she was thinking? Luckily, Jiang Fan's luck was outstanding. They encountered no dangers on the way. Qin Ke bitterly smiled and corrected, "Master, don't believe junior brother Jiang's humble words. We faced considerable danger along the way. First, crossing the New River, where we were besieged by a group of red-scaled evil flood dragons, and then hunted by an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon. If not for junior brother Jiang's profound skills and endless strategies, we would have perished in the river long ago." The Cloud Sword Peak Master secretly gasped. They actually encountered swarms of red-scaled evil flood dragons. Even for her, it would be challenging to survive if she met one in the river. Moreover, there was an adult among them, making it even more perilous and unpredictable. Just as she was about to express her gratitude, Qin Ke fearfully added, "But that wasn't the most dangerous. The most perilous was when we were targeted by a mid-stage Jidan silver-winged thunderbird." "Ah," the Cloud Sword Peak Master exclaimed in shock. "Silver-winged thunderbird? You encountered a silver-winged thunderbird. How did you survive?" She couldn't believe it. The silver-winged thunderbird was a fierce and cunning avian predator. Its prey rarely escaped once targeted. Even as the Cloud Sword Peak Master, facing a silver-winged thunderbird alone, her chances of survival were slim. Qin Ke looked at Jiang Fan with admiration and said, "Naturally, junior brother Jiang displayed immense power, severing its claws and scaring it away." The Cloud Sword Peak Master's eyes widened, staring at Jiang Fan in horror. This boy could actually wound a silver-winged thunderbird. Could a disciple accomplish such a feat? "Master, Master, may I stand up now?" Kneeling till her knees were numb, Qin Ke rubbed her legs. The Cloud Sword Peak Master came back to her senses. "Why are you still kneeling? Get up quickly." She had completely wronged this disciple. She hadn't shirked her duties at all. Instead, she had gone to forge ties with a prodigious genius. This was beneficial personally for her future and the future of Cloud Sword Peak. With that, she walked forward, personally helped Qin Ke up and apologized. "It's my fault I wronged you. You're much stronger than your senior sisters." The two senior sisters kneeling on the ground immediately protested. "Master, this task wasn't completed by junior sister." "Exactly, she relied on junior brother Jiang to finish it." Jealousy was plainly written on their faces. Why? Just because she curry favor with Jiang Fan, she became superior to them. Chapter 319. Chapter 319, Want to give up. Chapter 319. Chapter 319, Want to give up. Cloud Sword Peak Master coldly snorted. "Who's stopping you from finding backers? If you have the ability, find a master like young Master Jiang to support you. All of you, get back to your caves and reflect on yourselves." Having said that, he turned his head and smiled at Qin Ke. "Come to my secret room later, I will guide your cultivation properly." Qin Ke was astonished by the favor. This treatment was only enjoyed by her two senior sisters. She, with her mediocre qualifications, could only envy it before. "Thank you, Master," Qin Ke said joyfully. But she did not forget the purpose of this visit and said, "Master, junior brother Jiang came here this time because—" She wanted to ride on this momentum and speak out. Perhaps the master would be embarrassed to refuse. But Jiang Fan raised his eyebrows and promptly interrupted her, interjecting. "Disciple actually came specifically to visit the Cloud Sword Peak Master." As he spoke, he took out a black wooden box from his sleeve, a small token of respect. The Cloud Sword Peak Master was surprised and laughed as he accepted it. "There's even a meeting gift. Young Master Jiang, no need for the pretense. You must have something to ask of me by coming to my peak. Tell me what's on your mind first. Given the great help you've provided my disciple, I will assist you if I can." Anyone who could become an elder wasn't a simpleton. Seeing him accept the gift, Jiang Fan felt it was the right time to speak. He cupped his hands and said, "I want to meet your sect's Supreme Elder Zhou Kitten. Could you please convey my request?" The Cloud Sword Peak Master frowned, briefly pondered, and returned the wooden box, saying, "I can't help with this. Supreme Elder Zhou is currently in closed-door training and cannot be disturbed by anyone." As an ordinary elder, she dared not anger the Supreme Elder. Jiang Fan said, "Peak Master, why don't you take a look at what's inside the box first?" The Cloud Sword Peak Master chuckled. What good things hadn't she seen? Could a mere disciple's gift stir her so much that she would risk angering a Supreme Elder? No need. She tossed the wooden box back into Jiang Fan's arms. With a look of regret, Jiang Fan opened it, revealing a fist-sized round bead surrounded by a gentle breeze. It was the Black Hawk's demon core. Demon cores from Beast Kings had always been extremely rare in the market. It was only recently, with the Beast Tide, that one occasionally appeared, immediately becoming a sought-after item. Especially the Black Hawk, a fierce predator of the skies, was incredibly difficult to hunt, making it even rarer. Thus, as soon as it was opened, the Cloud Sword Peak Master was taken aback, exclaiming, "A Beast King's demon core, and a wind attribute one at that?" Such demon cores were top materials for making movement technique talismans and magic artifacts. Priceless. Once put up for sale, it would instantly be bought at a high price. Rough estimates would place its worth at several 10,000 crystal stones at least. Such a valuable gift, she had even returned it. Young Master Jiang's ventures have been very fruitful. To have obtained such a demon core, truly fortunate. The Cloud Sword Peak Master said enviously, yet her eyes couldn't move away from the demon core. The more she looked, the more regretful she felt. Why hadn't she checked before deciding? For such a demon core, getting scolded by Supreme Elder Zhou Kitten would be worth it. Jiang Fan saw her expression clearly, and with a smile pressed the wooden box into her hand, saying, "It was thanks to the Peak Master's great blessings and the cooperation of your elite disciple that we hunted this eagle. This demon core should rightfully belong to the Peak Master. I was merely safeguarding it. Now it returns to its rightful owner. Please accept it, Peak Master." The Cloud Sword Peak Master heard him out. This was Jiang Fan providing her a way to accept the gift again. Moreover, his words were well crafted and proper, making her feel unembarrassed. Feeling somewhat pleased, she was also secretly amazed at this young man's adeptness in dealing with people. She looked deeply at Jiang Fan. Nodding, she said, "The demon core may not be overly valuable, but your gesture is priceless. I'll accept it." Since she accepted the gift, she had to act. Without a hint of emotion, she put away the demon core and said, "You helped my disciple significantly, earning him 400 merit points. I will take you to the Supreme Elder Zhou Kitten's secret chamber. However, I can only make the introduction. Whether she wishes to see you is beyond my control." Jiang Fan let out a sigh of relief. "Of course!" Qin Ke, who had witnessed everything, was stunned. She could tell that her master was extremely reluctant to disturb the Supreme Elder. Jiang Fan's help hadn't moved the master, but Jiang Fan was so adept at social graces that even the master could not withstand it and gave in. This guy had both high skill and high emotional intelligence. Truly unbeatable. Soon after, at the rear mountain before a dust-covered secret chamber. Yet Omicron knew letter 1E5, letter 1D11. S letter 1D11, the Cloud Sword Peak Master hesitated at the door for a while, not daring to step forward. She even felt like backing out. Jiang Fan observed the surroundings of the secret chamber. The dust was half a foot thick, which also made him cautious. As a Supreme Elder, the area in front of her door should have disciples coming to clean daily. The fact that it was covered with dust meant that this Supreme Elder did not like to be disturbed, forbidding anyone from coming near. This was why the Cloud Sword Peak Master hesitated to knock. Jiang Fan rolled his eyes, taking the gift and still wanting to back out. He discreetly tapped the head of the little Killin. The sleeping little Killin suddenly woke up, grumbling in annoyance. Though not loud, the sound was clear in the silent area before the secret chamber. From inside the chamber, a displeased elderly voice immediately rang out. "Who dares to make a noise?" The Cloud Sword Peak Master was startled. She toughened up and approached the stone door, bowing and saying, "Junior Cloud Sword Peak Master, paying respects to Supreme Elder Zhou." Knowing it was the Cloud Sword Peak Master, the voice inside the stone door softened a little, but remained cold. "It's Qiu Shengnan. What do you want?" Qiu Shengnan's heart was pounding. She regretted coming here even more, but at this point she had no choice but to stammer. "Reporting to Supreme Elder Zhou, our Green Cloud Peak disciple Jiang Fan wishes to meet you and has specially come to disturb you." Boom, as soon as the words were spoken. The stone door suddenly opened. A surge of foul air rushed out, nearly making Jiang Fan vomit. Looking closely, in the small secret chamber, an old woman with tattered clothes and disheveled white hair covering half her body sat cross-legged. Her features were indistinguishable, covered in thick grime from not bathing for a long time. A foul smell emanated from her. Even beggars would be cleaner. How many years had she been in closed training? Yet no one dared to underestimate her, for she was the second most powerful expert in the Myriad Sword Sect, only below SuKing, widely known for her fiery temper. As expected, upon opening the door, her eyes blazed as she began scolding. "Qiu Shengnan, you think yourself quite something. Running errands for an outer sect disciple. You have disgraced Cloud Sword Peak. I will call your master, Supreme Elder Sun, over right now. I want to ask him face-to-face how he teaches his disciples." Chapter 320. Chapter 320. How many demon cores do you have exactly? Chapter 320. Chapter 320. How many demon cores do you have exactly? Qiu Shengnan's mouth felt bitter. Indeed, this Supreme Elder Zhou was the most difficult to deal with. Had she taken the wrong medicine? How dare she come and disturb her? Great, now she had to call her own master, Supreme Elder Sun. Her face would be lost in the entire sect. Jiang Fan secretly clicked his tongue. This Supreme Elder's temper was indeed not easy to handle, but having come all this way to see her, he naturally couldn't back down. He cupped his hands and said, "Supreme Elder Zhou, Junior Jiang Fan from the Green Cloud Sect, has long admired your great name. I dare to come and pay my respects." Zhou Kitten glanced at him from the corner of her eye, completely ignoring him. Omicron knew letter 1E5 Omicron. Omicron, a dignified Supreme Elder, naturally disdained paying attention to a young disciple, and a disciple disturbing her retreat, no less. Not scolding him was considering his status as an outer sect disciple, not wanting to damage the peace between the two sects. If it were a disciple from her own sect, she would have scolded him harshly long ago. Jiang Fan wasn't too surprised. The difference in status between them was like heaven and earth. It was surprising that she even bothered to acknowledge him. He continued to cup his hands and said, "I deeply apologize for disturbing your retreat, Senior. I heard Senior has been collecting demon beast materials recently. I have some gains and would like to ask Senior to appraise them." He didn't mention the matter of trade. The other party was a Supreme Elder. How could she lower herself to trade with a junior? Unless the value of the item was confirmed. Zhou Kitten showed a hint of surprise and chuckled. "I've underestimated you. There are less than 5 people in Myriad Sword Sect who know I'm collecting demon beast materials. You have some impressive connections to find out this inside information." She had only revealed this information to a few other Supreme Elders. No one else knew about it. That this young man obtained the news made her feel a bit surprised. However, could a random outer sect disciple easily disturb her retreat to appraise demon beast materials? She coldly refused without hesitation, but this elder is not interested, as she spoke. She seemed to sense something and glanced at Xianxia's chest. She looked surprised, a Black Hawk demon core. Boy, is this what you used to bribe Xianxia? Xianxia was shocked in her heart. This had been discovered too? She took out the black wooden box with a heavy heart, respectfully offering it without daring to deceive. Disciple recognizes her mistake. Please punish her, Supreme Elder. Kitten took it, opened it, and her eyes showed some brightness. Still fresh, recently slain. The value will be higher, at least 60,000 crystal stones on the market. To see me, the Supreme Elder, you have spent a lot. That said, she threw the demon core into her sleeve. Considered it as confiscated. Xianxia had to swallow her bitterness, scolded and called her master. In the end, the bribe she took was also confiscated. Where could she complain? Jiang Fan's mouth twitched. She took the demon core right in front of him without any pretense. But this was better. This Supreme Elder Kitten was indeed collecting demon beast materials. Junior has even more valuable materials for Senior to appraise, Jiang Fan said. Kitten finally showed interest. The pathfinding stones were all valuable Beast King demon cores. Perhaps this boy really did have some decent demon beast materials. After a moment's thought, she changed her mind and nodded. Fine, this Supreme Elder will make an exception and appraise them for this outer sect little one. Take them out. Jiang Fan, unhurriedly, first took out a crimson demon core. Kitten was expressionless, slowly nodding. A red-scaled evil flood dragon's demon core also fresh. This beast is not easy to kill. She gave Jiang Fan a meaningful look. Somewhat curious about where Jiang Fan got the demon core. It couldn't be that he had killed it himself, right? But if he just picked it up, that was also unrealistic. No martial artist who killed an adult red-scaled evil flood dragon would leave the demon core for this boy to pick up. This demon core, you could sell it for about 40 or 50,000 crystal stones, about the same as the one you used to bribe Xianxia. Kitten had a hint of teasing in her tone, implying Jiang Fan was losing out by giving up something for something lesser. Jiang Fan knowingly nodded and then took out a jade box covered with runes. How about this one? Inside the jade box lay a demon core the size of an infant's fist, flickering with lightning arcs throughout. Kitten slightly moved, a silver-winged Thunderbird's demon core, also fresh. Where did you get it? She couldn't help but ask out of curiosity. One after another, all freshly obtained. Moreover, this one was a mid-stage core formation silver-winged Thunderbird demon core. Its hunting difficulty was much higher than that of the Black Hawk. No way, a small disciple like Jiang Fan could have killed it right. Jiang Fan didn't dare reveal its origin. He replied, acquired by accident. Hearing the evasiveness in Jiang Fan's answer, although Kitten was curious, she had to endure. This time she showed some appreciation, saying, this is a good item, an excellent material for crafting thunder attribute magical treasures. Many Supreme Elders desire such a thing. Find the right buyer before you sell it, don't rush. She gave a sincere suggestion. However, it was evident she wasn't personally interested in the item. Jiang Fan nodded and then took out another jade box. Kitten perked up, surprised. You have more. This boy, where did he get so many demon cores? There were already 4, and each one was more valuable than the last. She fixed her eyes on the sealed jade box and saw a demon core emitting purple-black poisonous gas. She was startled, a copper-scale black centipede's demon core. Also fresh, she was stunned. Could this boy have come from the front lines of Giant Sect? But currently the frontline battles occurred at the Foundation establishment level. No large-scale appearances of Beast Kings had been reported. Where did he get so many Beast King-level demon cores? Moreover, the 4th demon core was the extremely rare copper-scale black centipede demon core. This beast was extremely dangerous, exceptionally cruel, and skilled in burrowing and stealth. Only a late-stage core formation martial artist from the human clan could confidently kill it. Where did you get? She couldn't help but ask again. Knowing Jiang Fan wouldn't give a straightforward answer, she stopped mid-sentence. She stared at the demon core, eyes full of wonder. This should be the highest-level demon core since the beast tide. Worth at least 300,000 crystal stones. If used by a poison technique practitioner, the price would be even higher. You've struck it rich. Xianxia, who was listening beside them, was dumbfounded. 300,000 crystal stones. Adding the other cores, didn't this boy have a net worth of 500,000 crystal stones? Even more substantial than her own elder's resources. Jiang Fan saw that Zhou Kitten had no interest and sighed inwardly. Indeed, it was immensely difficult to impress a Supreme Elder. Luckily, he had one last trump card. Zhou Kitten looked at Jiang Fan with profound meaning. "Boy, you've opened my eyes," she said. "A little disciple has so many fresh demon cores. I must remind you, never show them to outsiders again. This Supreme Elder definitely won't rob you, but others might not be so kind." She wasn't so bad after all. But fundamentally, it was because Zhou Kitten didn't care much about these demon cores. Had there been something she truly desired, she might not have robbed, but would certainly have found a way to keep it. He cupped his hands. "Thank you for your teachings, Senior." Zhou Kitten slowly nodded. "If there's nothing else, leave quickly." Saying this, she was about to close the stone door. Jiang Fan was taken aback. "Senior, wait. You haven't finished looking at the demon cores yet." Chapter 321. Chapter 321 Extra Gift What? Xianxia was dumbfounded and exclaimed, "You have more." Even Zhou Kitten was choked and coughed several times, both surprised and annoyed. "How many demon cores do you have exactly?" She couldn't help but feel envious. Where did this kid get so many demon cores? Could it be that it rained demon cores from the sky and he came upon them? She said with a touch of annoyance, "Take it out and let me see." She was a bit curious. The last one was already a quite astonishing copper-scale black centipede demon core. This time, was he going to take out a late stage of core formation demon core? The late stage of core formation in the 9-sect land was a presence at either the sect master or great elder level. This level of demon beast was also top tier among demon beasts. At the very least, it could rank among the top 100. The number of human experts who could kill them was very few. Not to mention leaving behind the demon core for this kid to pick up. This was absolutely impossible. It's most likely another mid-stage Jidan beast core, right? Jiang Fan did not dawdle. He immediately took out a black jade box covered in sealing talismans. From the outside, it was impossible to tell what it contained. "So mysterious." Zhou Kitten took the black jade box. She tore off the talismans and opened it. Her cloudy old eyes suddenly widened, and she was shocked. A 9th layer of core formation demon core. She couldn't believe her eyes and rubbed them vigorously. Staring at this small, bead-sized demon core, clearly several times smaller than an ordinary beast king demon core. She couldn't believe it for a long time. How much? The 9th layer of core formation. Xianxia rushed over and disregarded any hierarchy issues. She squeezed her head over to look into the jade box. Immediately she felt the fierce aura emanating from the jade box. As a mid-stage Jidan herself, a chill inexplicably ran down her spine. It was as if a terrifying beast king appeared before her. Where did this come from? Xianxia swallowed and voiced her extreme curiosity. Jiang Fan casually replied, "Picked it up." Zhou Kitten's breathing became erratic. She stared at Jiang Fan with extremely complex emotions, saying, "Even the Lengbone demon core of one of the 10 great war generals under the demon emperor you managed to pick up." "What?" Xianxia gasped, horrified. This is Lengbone's demon core. It fell. Who killed it? How did the demon core end up in your hands?" Jiang Fan remained expressionless. He certainly wouldn't be foolish enough to answer and said, "Senior, what do you think of this demon core?" Holding the black jade box, Zhou Kitten's eyes showed an uncontrollable desire. This kind of top-grade demon core. Even at the end of the beast tide, it might not produce one. She would never find a better demon core. Now that it was presented in front of her, how could she pass it up? After a moment of hesitation, she spoke. "Kid, this Supreme Elder want to buy this core. If you are willing, I offer 1,000,000 crystal stones. How about it?" 1,000,000? Xianxia felt dizzy. Many small sects didn't have that many crystal stones. With one demon core, Jiang Fan nearly had enough to establish his own sect. But Jiang Fan refused, saying, "Junior is willing to part with it." Upon hearing this, Zhou Kitten nodded slightly, not too pleased. Because 1,000,000 crystal stones were all her savings. Using it all to buy this demon core couldn't make her happy. It could only be said that it was a fair exchange, neither gaining nor losing. But Jiang Fan's next sentence left Zhou Kitten stunned. "However, Junior has no need for crystal stones. I wish to exchange it with Senior for something, not crystal stones." Zhou Kitten felt relieved and showed a hint of joy. "What do you want then?" Nothing on her could be worth 1,000,000 crystal stones. Jiang Fan took a deep breath and revealed his true purpose. Junior follows the body refining path and is currently stuck at a bottleneck, needing the poisoned dragon bone marrow in Senior's possession. If Senior is willing, Junior will exchange this demon core for the poisoned dragon bone marrow. Upon hearing this, Joe Kidden's initial joy disappeared. She hesitated for a long time, seemingly weighing her options. Finally, she sighed deeply and reluctantly handed the Lengbone demon core back to Jiang Fan. If only you had come a day or two earlier. Now it's too late. Alas, such is fate. Jiang Fan looked puzzled. Clearly, Joe Kidden was very tempted. Why did she give up in the end? Unwilling to give up, he said, Senior, could it be that your poisoned dragon bone marrow has already been given to someone else? Joe Kidden looked at the demon core in Jiang Fan's hand, sighing repeatedly, almost. Given means given, not given means not given. What does almost mean? Jiang Fan asked, puzzled, is there no room for negotiation? Joe Kidden shook her head, feeling quite regretful, and said, I have already promised to give it to someone. A promise is a promise, can't break my word. If only you had come a day or two earlier. Alas. Jiang Fan touched his nose, showing a strange expression, and said, Senior, did you promise to give it to a masked young man? Joe Kidden was stunned, her eyes narrowing into a frown. Who told you this? Her eyes showed a trace of vigilance. Only she and SuKing knew about this. How did this outer sect disciple in front of her know? Jiang Fan couldn't help but laugh. That old man really acted swiftly. He had already informed Joe Kidden so quickly. He took out No One Shadow Guard's mask and put it on his face, saying, Because I am that young man. Even with Joe Kidden's usual calmness, she stood up in shock. How can it be you? No, you could have just come directly to take it. Why go through this trouble to trade with me? She was baffled. Jiang Fan laughed. Junior doesn't want to trouble seniors with matters he can solve himself. He really didn't want to owe that old man a huge favor. Otherwise, repaying it might not be enough even with a Lengbone demon core. Understanding his reasoning, Joe Kidden didn't know what to say for a moment, feeling both absurd and somewhat admiring Jiang Fan's character. In today's world, full of scheming and fighting for profit, people would scramble to seize any advantage. Someone like Jiang Fan was rare. You have truly endured a lot, Joe Kidden showed a touch of affection. She could imagine how difficult it was to obtain these demon cores, and the amount of effort he put into meeting her. Jiang Fan smiled. It's not a burden because both Senior and I are happy. He handed the black jade box back to Joe Kidden, so our trade is settled. Joe Kidden had mixed feelings. She took out an intact jade bottle from her sleeve. It contained half a bottle of thick black liquid that felt unsettling even through the jade bottle. It gave a sense of dizziness. This is the poisoned dragon bone marrow of a demon emperor-level dragon containing potent toxins. Joe Kidden handed it to Jiang Fan with some misgivings. He was only at the Foundation establishment realm. The poison in this marrow was deadly to him. A slight mistake could be fatal. After some thought, she also took out an old, yellowed scripture scroll. Fine, given your sincerity, take this scripture as well. Study it first, gain some proficiency, and then use the poisoned dragon bone marrow. Jiang Fan took it, baffled. Why did he receive an extra cultivation technique? Since it was a bonus, it probably wasn't anything important, right? Xianxia also glanced curiously, but one look made her pupils contract sharply in shock. Supreme Elder Joe, how can this be? Chapter 322. Chapter 322. SuKing is confused. On the cover of the scripture scroll were a few blurry words, 9 poison true scripture. Outsiders might not know what this was. But how could Xianxia not be clear? She anxiously said, Supreme Elder Joe, this is your main cultivation technique and also our Myriad Sword Sect's most guarded secret. How can you pass it to an outsider? She had no objections to giving Jiang Fan more rewards. That was the freedom of the Supreme Elder. But the 9 poison true scripture was the supreme cultivation technique of the Myriad Sword Sect, comparable to SuKing's sword control technique. Even disciples within the sect couldn't easily cultivate it, yet it was being passed to an outsider. This was too unreasonable. Jiang Fan appeared stunned. Was this 9 poison true scripture really that precious? The Myriad Sword Sect was a sword cultivator sect. Was a poison scripture really worth being regarded as a top secret? He opened the first page, and a line of large characters came into view. Jiang Fan was so shocked that he exclaimed, Earth-level mid-tier cultivation technique. He hurriedly returned the scripture scroll. I can't accept this scripture scroll, it's too valuable. An Earth-level mid-tier cultivation technique, and a complete version at that. How dare he take it? Joe Kidden glared at Xianxia and tossed the scripture to her. A top secret, you say? Here, dare you to cultivate it? But Xianxia, treating it as if it were a venomous scorpion, quickly threw it away, not daring to touch it at all. With an awkward expression, she said, Supreme Elder Zhou jests. Who besides you would dare cultivate this scripture? To cultivate the 9-poison true scripture, one not only had to comprehend the true essence of the scripture, it also required drinking strong poisons. If the scripture's essence wasn't comprehended and the poison swallowed couldn't be digested, death would follow swiftly. Since the inception of this cultivation technique, few in the Myriad Sword sect had successfully cultivated it. Most died halfway through. SuKing was currently the only person who had successfully cultivated this poison scripture. Who would dare to rashly cultivate this scripture? SuKing snorted. Then why are you talking so much? Does this 9-poison true scripture have any use in my Myriad Sword sect? Chastised, Xianxia felt aggrieved and did not dare to say another word. Only then did SuKing turn to Jiang Fan with a gentle expression and caution him. Using the poison dragon bone marrow rashly could cost you your life. First, spend a few years comprehending the first layer of this scripture. That way, you can use the 9-poison true scripture to absorb the poison from the bone marrow. While refining your body, you can also cultivate some poison techniques, achieving both goals. Understand? Was there such a beneficial thing? Jiang Fan stared at the 9-poison true scripture being pushed back into his arms, feeling grateful. However, with his comprehension ability, it shouldn't take him years to understand the 9-poison true scripture. One night should be enough. The trade was successfully completed. Jiang Fan cupped his hands and said, Thank you, Senior, for the gift of the cultivation technique. I wish you success in refining artifacts. SuKing chuckled. And I wish you great success in body refinement technique. If you encounter any difficulties with the 9-poison true scripture in the future, you can come to me. Jiang Fan expressed his gratitude again. Thank you, Senior. Then he cupped his hands towards Xianxia. Thank you, Peak Master, for leading the way as well. Seniors, I take my leave. He left the mountain, feeling fully rewarded. Xianxia didn't dare to stay here alone either. She cupped her hands in farewell. Unexpectedly, a formidable aura rushed towards them. In no time, an old man in hemp robes with a rusty iron sword on his back approached. Seeing SuKing, who had come out of seclusion, he was surprised. Supreme Elder Zhou, why have you come out of seclusion? Weren't you at a critical moment in comprehending the sword technique? What? Supreme Elder Zhou was at a critical moment. Xianxia's vision went black and she trembled as she said, Master, it was your disciple who disturbed the senior. The newcomer was indeed Xianxia's master, the previous Cloud Sword Peak Master. Upon hearing this, his face changed drastically and he scolded, Are you mad? Who gave you the guts to disturb Supreme Elder Zhou in seclusion? Xianxia, with a bitter expression, did not dare to conceal anything and said, This disciple's mind was clouded by lard. For the sake of a demon core, I rudely disturbed Supreme Elder Zhou. What? Took a bribe and disturbed SuKing. Supreme Elder Sun was trembling with rage and raised his palm to teach her a lesson. Enough. SuKing, however, was in a good mood and retrieved the Black Hawk's demon core, tossing it back to Xianxia. She actually did me a big favor. I finally gathered all the demon beast materials I've been searching for. I can now refine the magic artifact I've been wanting. Supreme Elder Sun was taken aback. He knew SuKing had been planning a big venture, delayed for years due to material limitations. And now there was sudden major progress. He enviously said, Congratulations, Supreme Elder Zhou. Immediately looking at Xianxia, his tone softened, saying, This is a one-time exception. Considering you stumbled into merit, come to my cave later and pick a few spirit pills. Xianxia was overjoyed. Not only did she get the Black Hawk's demon core back, but she also received a reward from her Supreme Elder. She benefited from misfortune. She made a great profit. Qin truly was her lucky star. She must also reward her well in the future. Supreme Elder Sun curiously smiled. What materials did that person send you? SuKing did not hide it and took out Lengu's demon core. As soon as the demon core appeared, the astonishing demon energy made Supreme Elder Sun's expression turn serious. Could this be a late stage of core formation demon core? SuKing held it carefully in her hand, saying, More than that, this is Lengu's demon core. What? Supreme Elder Sun gasped. Who is this person? Able to kill Lengu? Throughout the Myriad Sword sect, only SuKing could kill Lengu, but SuKing's answer left him even more shocked. Not some distinguished person. It's a mere disciple of the Green Cloud Sect. Ah, Supreme Elder Sun was bewildered. A disciple? How could he possibly kill Lengu? Wait, I heard Supreme Elder Su say he chased Lengu a few days ago. Could it be that this demon core was given to the disciple by him? Joe Kitten was stunned, then raised her eyebrows in sudden realization, slapping her thigh. That's it. How did that kid get so many demon cores? It turns out SuKing gave them. What kind of trick is that old guy playing? He asked me to give the poisoned dragon bone marrow to that kid, making him owe him a favor. Then he gives him many demon cores for the kid to trade away. Clang. A terrifying sword chi suddenly descended nearby. From afar came SuKing's hearty and powerful laughter. Supreme Elder Joe, why are you speaking ill of me as soon as you come out of seclusion? When SuKing approached, Joe Kitten rolled her eyes. You old guy, what exactly are you up to? You made me give away a whole 9 poison true scripture. If it was just a favor debt, she would have straightforwardly handed the poisoned dragon bone marrow to Jiang Fan, and both sides would be done. But Jiang Fan, with a pile of demon cores, played a sincere emotional card, making her give away a 9 poison true scripture. The more she thought about it, the more annoyed she became. SuKing was dumbfounded. What are you talking about? I don't understand a word, Supreme Elder Sun retorted. You're really good at pretending. Wasn't it you who gave that kid the Lengu's demon core? SuKing was taken aback. Lengu's demon core? Who did I give it to? Then suddenly he realized the crux of the matter. Shock overtook him as he said, wait a minute. Lengu is dead. Chapter 323. Chapter 323. Who is this kid exactly? Joe Kitten chuckled. Look at that, he's really putting on a show. Supreme Elder Sun raised an eyebrow. With that acting, he could fool those peak masters just like fooling idiots, one by one. The two were convinced that the demon core was given by SuKing. Otherwise, it was hard to explain how Jiang Fan had acquired the demon core. Who's pretending? SuKing sternly said. Indeed, I was chasing Cold Bone that day. But its reinforcements arrived too, dozens of mid-stage core formation beast kings. I was injured, escaping was already difficult, let alone breaking into the beast horde to kill it. Initially, the two were still laughing, thinking SuKing was pretending, but seeing his serious expression, they started to take it seriously. Joe Kitten showed a look of shock. Cold Bone, it really wasn't you who killed it, SuKing said in a deep voice. Are you sure you didn't see wrongly? In the territory of Myriad Sword Sect, who else could kill Cold Bone? Although it was heavily injured by my sword chi, at less than 50% of its peak strength, it still wasn't someone ordinary who could kill it. Realizing something was wrong, Joe Kitten hurriedly took out the black jade box and opened it to reveal a white demon core, the size of an eyeball. Hiss! It's really Cold Bone's demon core. SuKing's expression changed, instantly recognizing from the demon energy that it was indeed the Cold Bone he failed to kill. Where did you get it? Joe Kitten closed the jade box and asked back. I should be asking you. That kid named Jiang Fan, where did he come from? He not only has Cold Bone's demon core, but also those of the copper-scaled black centipede, black hawk, and the red-scaled evil flood dragon, all fresh kills. SuKing was stunned. Jiang Fan, who's that? He searched his memory but couldn't recall any formidable person named Jiang Fan. Joe Kitten said angrily, the one with the mask, you even asked me to give him poisoned dragon bone marrow. SuKing was startled. You mean the demon core of Cold Bone was sent by him? He has many demon cores on him. How could this be? In his impression, Jiang Fan was just a highly skilled, meticulous young man. How could such a world-shaking event as killing Cold Bone have anything to do with him? Joe Kitten took a deep breath. What? You haven't figured out his background either. Who exactly is he then? At this moment, she even suspected that Jiang Fan's name was fake. There was a possibility he wasn't a disciple of the Green Cloud Sect at all, but a highly hidden master. Elder Sun touched his nose. We 3 Supreme Elders can't even see through a youngster. Upon hearing this, the 3 became disoriented. For a moment, they doubted their lives. Jiang Fan, the person involved, with the precious 9 poison true scripture and poisoned dragon bone marrow in his possession, returned to the mountain's foot. From afar, he saw a group of people surrounding Yining. Judging by their attire, they were from the Myriad Sword Sect. The leader was someone Jiang Fan actually knew. It was Ling Gihai, the elite disciple of the Myriad Sword Sect who had participated in the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion's auction before. He was staring at Yining with amazement. Sister from the Green Cloud Sect, are you here to seek something from the Myriad Sword Sect? I am Ling Gihai, the chief disciple under the sect leader of the Myriad Sword Sect. If you need anything, you can tell me. The men and women following Ling Gihai all had ambiguous smiles. Since returning from the Green Cloud Sect, Ling Gihai had been like a hit maniacally focused on cultivation. He hadn't even taken up the recent bustling tasks from the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion. Today, persuaded by a few good friends, he decided to take a break and step out for a walk. As soon as he stepped out, he was captivated by this beautiful girl leaning against the wall. Ling Gihai wasn't one to indulge in women's beauty. Ordinary women wouldn't even catch his second glance. Yet the girl before him, with her picturesque features and carved beauty, stirred his heart. He couldn't resist making an acquaintance, but Yining did not show a pleased expression at all. "I appreciate junior brother Ling's kind offer, but I'm waiting for a friend who will be here shortly." "Please, go ahead," Yining coolly refused, feeling quite annoyed. Previously, when she was with Jiang Fan and the No One Shadow Guard, she hadn't noticed anything. Since traveling alone, she found that every young man approaching her without exception coveted her appearance. This made Jiang Fan and the No One Shadow Guard seem like breaths of fresh air. The men in the world seemed divided only into Jiang Fan, the No One Shadow Guard, and all others. Ling Gihai's gaze lingered on Yining's stunning features, unable to look away. He considered himself experienced in the ways of love, having many women throwing themselves at him. But the beauty before him who touched his heart was rare. The last one was Liu Qingxian, lauded as the #1 beauty of the 9th sect. "Who is your friend? Tell me I might know them." Ling Gihai's eyes flashed. A rare encounter with a girl he liked. How could he let her go easily? Of course, if the friend was a powerful figure like a sect's chief disciple or the sect master's top apprentice. He would restrain himself and be more courteous. If not, then apologies, this place belonged to the Myriad Sword Sect and was Ling Gihai's turf. No matter what, he would invite this sister back to the sect to foster a closer relationship. Using force, he naturally dared not. The sect's elders and supreme elders were watching. He wouldn't dare do anything to tarnish the sect's reputation. But using all sorts of treasures and resources to win her heart, that's easy. Especially since the Green Cloud Sect was a poor bottom-tier sect. The disciples from there were mostly impoverished. He could easily manipulate them. Yining opened her mouth, about to mention the No One Shadow Guard's name, but realized she didn't know his true identity. Seeing this, Ling Gihai laughed. Was it because her friend's reputation was too small, fearing no one would recognize him? "Sister, how about this? I'll have someone wait here for your friend. In the meantime, let's take a walk around the Myriad Sword Sect. When your friend arrives, we'll call for him. How about it?" Without waiting for Yining's consent, he gestured to a few female disciples beside him. They understood instantly, giggling as they pushed and pulled. "Come on, sister. Junior brother Ling never invites sisters from other sects." "Yes, come on, come on." They forced Yining towards the Myriad Sword Sect with them. Though she cried out in protest, their voices perfectly drowned out her shouts. Passers-by thought they were just playing around. Yining, squat down." While Yining was feeling indignant, the No One Shadow Guard's voice suddenly rang in her ear. After the battle with the copper scale black centipede, she and the No One Shadow Guard had developed a great deal of tacit understanding. So, as if by instinct, she squatted down. The next moment, a blade wave of sword chi emanating a chilling cold instantly arrived. The female disciples, too slow to react, were struck by the sword chi on the spot. They were all sent flying, crashing against the wall. That was not all. The coldness within the sword chi rapidly spread. Freezing them to the wall, unable to break free, they cried out in fear and tears. This scene happened in the blink of an eye. Ling Gihai didn't even have time to react, both shocked and furious. He hurriedly tried to pull down a female disciple from the wall, only to be met with painful screams. She came down, but the skin from her face was left on the wall due to the frost. Her face was a bloody mess, disfigured right away. Jiang Fan sheathed his sword, coldly saying, "You'd better let them hang on the wall for a while until the coldness dissipates. First, to save their faces. Second, to give them a lesson in shame." His face was slightly cold. A hint of anger flickered in his eyes. Chapter 324. Chapter 324, the unlucky daughter of the demon Emperor Ling Gihai was certainly hateful. But these female disciples who assisted him were even more hateful. In broad daylight, they actually abducted someone. If he hadn't returned in time, wouldn't Yining have fallen into their hands? And this was right at the foot of Myriad Sword Sect's mountain. It's unbelievable that such a thing could happen. Ling Gihai was both shocked and furious, shouting, "How dare you attack a disciple of Myriad Sword Sect?" Jiang Fan coldly snorted and said loudly, Where do you ragtags come from daring to impersonate Myriad Sword Sect disciples? In broad daylight openly abducting women? Are you not putting Myriad Sword Sect in your eyes? He deliberately raised his voice. It attracted the attention of passers-by, who all looked over in shock. At first, they thought it was a playful squabble, but it turned out to be bandits kidnapping women, and they dared to impersonate Myriad Sword Sect disciples. Were they looking for death? Several martial artists with considerable skill rolled up their sleeves and started walking over. Ling Gihai's face froze, and he hurriedly shouted, "Who is impersonating? I am Ling Gihai, a disciple under the Myriad Sword Sect Master. This is my identity token." He held up the token high, showing it to everyone around. Jiang Fan appeared to understand. "So you really are a disciple under the Myriad Sword Sect Master. What, did your master teach you to forcibly take women in broad daylight?" He kept putting unbearable accusations on him. Who could stand this? Ling Gihai was both angry and annoyed, saying, "Nonsense! I was just inviting this junior sister to visit Myriad Sword Sect." At this moment, Yining broke free. She hurriedly ran back to Jiang Fan's side, tightly holding his arm, showing a frightened look, and said, "I don't want to go with you. You were dragging me away. Heaven knows what you want by taking me." As the victim, her words carried the most weight. Her few sentences completely ignited the anger of the onlookers. Outrageous! The leading disciple of Myriad Sword Sect, forcibly taking a woman in public. Is there any justice left? If they dare to treat a female disciple of Green Cloud Sect like this, what about the women from aristocratic families or loose cultivators like us? Wouldn't we be in even greater danger? I'll go ask the Myriad Sword Sect Master how he teaches his disciples right now. Nowadays, the surrounding area of Myriad Sword Sect had a considerable number of outer sect members, including some senior experts from various sects. They couldn't tolerate Myriad Sword Sect disciples bullying their younger generation just because they were in their territory. This made Ling Gihai's face twitch, and he hurriedly explained, "It's not like that. It really isn't like that. I just wanted to invite this junior sister to Myriad Sword Sect." The sect leader, the elders, the Supreme Elder, they were all watching. How could I dare to have ill intentions toward her? He felt that he was truly wronged. But the crowd didn't care. Who knows what you plan to do with her after taking her? Now that you've been found out, of course you'll say that. If you weren't discovered, wouldn't this female disciple have fallen into the tiger's den? No matter what you say, abducting someone means you have ill intentions. Let's go. Together, let's demand an explanation from Myriad Sword Sect. Many martial artists formed groups and headed toward Myriad Sword Sect together. Seeing things had come to this, Ling Gihai regretted endlessly. He thought this junior sister from Green Cloud Sect was an easily bullied soft target. But who knew her partner would be so tricky? With a few sharp words, he put an enormous and unbearable label on him. He couldn't escape a thorough scolding. Thinking of this, he angrily glared at Jiang Fan. "Just you wait. If you have the guts, don't come to Myriad Sword Sect or I'll make you pay." He wanted to take revenge immediately, to harshly teach Jiang Fan a lesson. But all the onlookers were glaring at him. If he made a move, there would be plenty of people to help Jiang Fan. Moreover, a large group of people was heading to Myriad Sword Sect to make complaints. How could he dare to delay? Leaving these harsh words, he stormed off in anger. Pu Kai, seeing his embarrassed escape, Yining couldn't help but laugh, playfully saying, "How did I do just now?" If it weren't for her few cries as the victim, the onlookers wouldn't have been so angry. Jiang Fan rubbed his nose, not expecting the always serious Yining to have such a teasing side. He coughed lightly and said, "You're still laughing. Didn't you hear his threat saying he'd make us pay in Sword Forest?" Yining pouted. "He can't even protect himself right now. How could he have the chance to take revenge on us?" Moreover, her beautiful eyes focused on Jiang Fan, feeling a great sense of security. "Isn't there still you?" She had already lost count of how many times no one's shadow guard had saved her. Each time she came out unscathed. It gave her a sort of illusion. As long as he was there, she felt at ease. Jiang Fan, speechless, said, "It's better to find a place to help you improve your strength. By enhancing yourself, you will have more ability to protect yourself." Soon after, the two arrived at an inn in the city. Jiang Fan first helped her understand Elder Ling Jinghu's mental method. Then he further assisted her with the movement technique, solitary wild goose shadow. With her existing foundation in movement techniques and Jiang Fan's careful guidance, she successfully cultivated its first layer. As for attack techniques, Jiang Fan couldn't decide for the moment. The few sets of Earth-level techniques he cultivated were either too difficult or risked exposing his identity. The others lacked sufficient power. He could only put it aside temporarily, waiting to find a suitable technique before teaching it to Su Yining. After Su Yining settled into meditation and cultivation, Jiang Fan returned to his room, closed the doors and windows tightly. He took out the 9-poison true scripture for insight. As an Earth-level mid-tier technique, even Jiang Fan found it difficult to comprehend. Several hours later, he showed a look of admiration, saying, "The senior who created this technique is truly a genius. They actually imitated poisonous demon beasts to create a poison pill. When not in use, the poison pill can absorb the poison in the body, making one immune to all poisons. When in use, the poison pill releases a large amount of poison, integrating into spiritual power to inflict poison damage on the enemy. It can be considered an all-in-one for offense and defense." The technique was comprehended. Next was to ingest the deadly poison. He took out the poison dragon bone marrow. The intense poison made him feel dizzy just from the jade bottle, showing how toxic it was. Swallowing a whole bottle should easily help cultivate the first layer, but directly swallowing it would be a waste. Refining it into a spirit pill would better retain its toxicity. But refining this pill here, would that be a problem? Jiang Fan was somewhat worried. After all, this was poison dragon bone marrow. During the refining process, some pill fragrance would inevitably escape, and within the fragrance there would be some poison. If someone smelled it, it could cause fatalities. Being in a bustling city center, he couldn't afford to be careless. He decisively left the inn, heading to a desolate corner in the north of the city, settling in an abandoned temple. After making sure there was no one around, he started refining the poison pill. It wasn't clear how much time had passed. Outside the temple, a figure dressed in red, covered in dirt, emerged slyly from underground. She yawned and stretched. It's really hard to get used to the diurnal lifestyle of humans. After several days living among humans, she hadn't been able to sleep during the day. After entering the city today, she decisively found a desolate place where no one would come and had a good nap. Looking at the vast night sky, as a demon beast, she felt extremely comfortable. Now let's check out how many elite disciples have come from the 9th sect. Tomorrow at Sword Forest, I'll give them a complete massacre, haha. Just as she was muttering to herself, suddenly, from the dilapidated temple behind her, a burst of fire shot up to the sky. A purple-black stream formed a beam and rushed into the sky. She was stunned. What is that? Someone in the temple? Her eyes turned. She silently crept up to the temple gate. With a glance, she saw, below a broken Buddha statue, a somewhat familiar figure was surrounding a small pill furnace. Is this alchemy? She recognized that this was a human soul master refining pills. I've heard that human spirit pills have unique properties. Many of them are greatly beneficial to demon beasts. Thinking of this, she quietly moved closer. Who knew at this moment, the stream of air that had surged towards the sky suddenly spread out in all directions. She couldn't avoid it and was engulfed by the airstream. A strong poison seeped into her body through her nose and mouth. Intense dizziness swept over her. She blinked in confusion, saying, "I've been poisoned. Why would someone be refining a poison pill in the middle of the night? I was just passing by, curious to take a look." Her vision blacked out. She fell straight down. Chapter 325. Chapter 325. I will be responsible for you hearing some movement behind him. Jiang Fan turned his head and was startled. Ah, how could there be someone here? His expression changed. He quickly gathered up the few poison pills he had refined and hurried over to check. If an innocent person had been poisoned to death, it would be a great sin for him. Running over, Jiang Fan looked surprised. Isn't this that inexplicable girl? He recognized her at a glance. She was the girl at the city gate who had shown hostility towards him and asked for his name. Her exotic appearance was highly recognizable. No matter who she was, a human life was at stake. Jiang Fan hurried to check, and after a moment he let out a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, she was just poisoned into unconsciousness. There were no serious poison injuries. To think she has a strong resistance to poison. The poison dragon bone marrow he had refined released a scent with a terrifying level of poison. It was far more dangerous than just sniffing it through a bottle. If someone in the Foundation establishment realm inhaled it, they would most likely suffer severe poisoning. If it were someone in the Qi cultivation realm, they would die on the spot. This girl had only lost consciousness. It was evident her physique was very special. Of course, Jiang Fan wasn't going to delve into that. He carried her to a nearby incense table to lie down. He then stood by her side, waiting for her to wake up, while taking out the 3 black pills refined from the poisoned dragon bone marrow. He swallowed one. An intense burning pain spread from his tongue to his stomach, making him shiver uncontrollably. He didn't wait for the poison in the pill to erupt. He decisively began circulating the 9 poison true scripture, quickly absorbing the poison from the pill. In the spirit pond in his dantian, a pea-sized, pill-like body began to form visibly. This was the poison pill. All the poison released by the pill was absorbed by it without causing harm to Jiang Fan's body. Quickly, all the poison in one spirit pill was absorbed. Jiang Fan took another pill. This time, the poison pill absorbed the poison much more slowly. It took a full 2 hours for the poison in the spirit pill to be completely absorbed. At this point, the poison pill was shining black. It was as full as porcelain. Looking at the last remaining poison spirit pill, Jiang Fan put it away. 2 poison spirit pills are my current limit. He stood up. He struck a palm at the clay Buddha statue in front of him. Sizzling, a palm print immediately appeared on the statue. From the palm print, a fierce corrosive sound issued, and visible strands of poison began to erode the clay. Shortly after, a 1-foot-deep pit had formed. Jiang Fan clicked his tongue in admiration. If this hit a person, a mid-grade defensive magical treasure wouldn't withstand it, right? This poison technique was much more formidable than he had imagined. Used unexpectedly, it could cause immense trouble for the enemy. His eyes gleamed with joy. This was an unexpected gain. However, be it practicing the 9 poison true scripture or refining poison spirit pills, his ultimate goal was not this. Sitting back in a cross-legged position, he took a deep breath. He controlled the poison pill within his body, slowly releasing its poison, which circulated through all his meridians, invading his bones, organs, and flesh. Intense pain ensued, but body refinement was like this. Without physical pain, it was hard to achieve a rebirth from the ashes. Fortunately, with the presence of the poison pill, he could control the amount of poison, ensuring it wasn't too overwhelming to poison himself to death, nor too little to be ineffective. He maintained a level of intense stimulation that was severe yet not fatal. His body underwent severe torment. Soon after, his entire body was drenched in cold sweat, and the excruciating pain caused his teeth to chatter noisily. His facial features became distorted from the agony. This process continued until dawn. At this moment, Jiang Fan's face and hands were covered in a layer of thick black mud. It was the same for all his exposed skin. Under his clothes, the unseen areas were even worse. Jiang Fan's face was pale, yet he couldn't conceal his excitement. The 3rd layer of the Iron Blood True Scripture, Dragon Elephant Battle Body, great success. At this moment, he felt an unprecedented sense of confidence. He could engage in combat with a 2nd level of core formation realm demon beast using body techniques. If he combined this with the Heavenly Battle 9 forms, he would easily triumph. Moreover, as his realm improved, his physique would advance to another level. His eyes shone brightly. His self-preservation ability for the upcoming beast tide had been greatly enhanced. After a long period of excitement, Jiang Fan noticed the stench coming from his body. This was the impurities expelled from his body after a thorough physical transformation. He looked at it with disdain. He quickly stripped off his clothes, used spiritual power to shake off the mud on his skin, cleaned his body, took out a new set of clothes, and was about to put them on when suddenly he heard a scream from behind. "You shameless!" Oh no. Jiang Fan was startled and quickly put on his clothes, turning to look, his mouth twitching continuously with frustration. The girl in the red dress, who had been unconscious all night, woke up just at this moment, and she saw him in this embarrassing state. He felt an urge to vomit blood. Did it have to be this dramatic? He quickly dressed while comforting her. "Young lady, I apologize for what happened last night. I didn't do it intentionally, but you can rest assured that if you feel any discomfort in the future, I will take full responsibility." Though the poison gas only caused her to faint, Jiang Fan couldn't be sure there would be no after effects. But he would take responsibility for his actions. At most, he would specially treat her later. However, in the ears of the Demon Emperor's daughter, his words took on a different meaning. Her face changed dramatically. "Take responsibility for me?" did he, while I was unconscious. Thinking of Jiang Fan's recent naked state, everything seemed to indicate he had just finished. Unluckily, the remaining poison caused her whole body to ache as if she had been savagely ravaged. Everything combined pushed her to the brink. She, the dignified daughter of the Demon Emperor, had been violated by a human. Looking at the girl's dazed expression, Jiang Fan grew worried and asked, Are you okay? Don't be like this. I won't run away. I will take full responsibility for you. Hearing this, the demon emperor's daughter erupted in fury. She smashed the incense table beneath her with a palm, shouting, "I'll kill you! Ah!" She charged at Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan was startled. What was she doing? He had already said he would take responsibility for her injuries. Was there a need to shout and kill? It wasn't on purpose. Seeing her crazed look, Jiang Fan dared not linger any longer. He immediately grabbed his belongings from the ground, activated his movement technique, and fled in a flash. When the girl in the red dress chased after him, Jiang Fan was nowhere to be seen. She was both angry and shattered. After shouting in rage, she squatted on the ground and began to sob helplessly. "Woo-hoo! Father, I want to go home. The human world is too dangerous. I was just passing by and I lost my innocence. Woo-hoo!" she cried for a long time. Then she felt a swelling pain in her abdomen, covering her abdomen in shame and anger. That bastard, how many times did he? The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Clenching her teeth, she said, "Humans are all monsters. You all deserve to die. None of you human elites in the Sword Forest will survive." Achoo. Just back at the inn, Jiang Fan suddenly sneezed. Looking down, he realized he hadn't properly dressed himself. He quickly slipped back into his room, only to find Yining waiting for him inside. They locked eyes for a moment. Yining looked him up and down suspiciously. "Where did you go last night?" Seeing number one shadow guard with disheveled clothes, not even wearing his inner garments, carrying various things, it looked as if he had just climbed out of a woman's bed. Possibly even a married woman's bed, otherwise why would he have to rush back so hurriedly? She felt a pang of displeasure in her heart. Jiang Fan coughed lightly and said, "Nowhere. It's none of your business. Get ready. We're heading to the Sword Forest." Yining bit her lip slightly, feeling a bit sour inside. She wanted to know the truth, but thinking she was just a friend of no. One shadow guard, did she have the right to ask about his personal life? She could only leave in anger. Jiang Fan scratched his head. What did I do to provoke her? Soon after, they were ready and headed to the Myriad Swords Sect again. At the gate, the elite disciples of various sects were waiting in line to enter. Suddenly, a familiar outfit caught Jiang Fan's eye. He focused his gaze and saw it was the Green Cloud Sect's attire. Was it Liu Qingxian? Jiang Fan looked over anxiously.